Hi, my name is Sean Shaler. That's my friend Chris Ford. That's my dog back there. He's going to hang out with us this evening. And today is a huge, very special day because we are reviewing, full spoiler reviewing, the Shadow of Kyoshi novel. Not just reviewing it, we're going to take it step by step, basically the same way that we would do any episode. So it is going to be a big process, a lot of detail, but we both really, spoiler alert, both enjoyed the book, so it's going to be a lot of fun as well. Pretty much just going to introduce it. I'll let Chris give a few like opening words of wisdom before we jump in. And then we also, one really quick news note, if you will, is that Legend of Korra is coming to Netflix on August 14th. That is a Friday. So book that weekend, binge the whole show because we're going to talk about that on August 14th. That's right around the corner. It's very exciting, but I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Chris, do you want to give any opening thoughts on Shadow of Kyoshi?
Opening thoughts. I'm really excited to get into this with you, Sean. If you guys haven't yet watched our Rise of Kyoshi spoiler recap review, go and watch that. That's also about a good in-depth 2 hour recap of it. And for those who did watch it, thank you very much for watching it. It was really fun to do. Like honestly, I didn't think a video that long and very specific about Rise of Kyoshi would do as well as it did, performance-wise and audience-wise. So thank you for watching that. And I hope you enjoy this one as well. And this will pretty much do it the same way, probably a little bit more structured this time. We'll go chapter by chapter, go over some recaps, how we feel about things, and then yeah, we'll just get into some big, huge spoilers, talks about it, and then
Yep.
at the end there, we'll talk about our favorite moments, favorite characters, favorite revelations, things like that.
Spoiler alert, the whole way, super duper spoilers. If you don't want those, stop now. We do have a non spoiler review. It's like 20 minutes long that we posted last week. So if you haven't read it yet or you haven't finished yet, go check that one out instead. Because no spoilers. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. In that case, I'm ready whenever you are. Let's get cracking.
All right. Chapter one. I won't say that every single time, but
Please.
chapter one.
Can you do like a different impression each time, like a Morgan Freeman? Chapter one, prologue.
Chapter one. Prologue.
Perfect.
Boy, Yoon clawed at his own neck until he drew blood. The feeling of slime and teeth lingered on his skin. Boy, stop your sniveling. Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry, you have to do it the whole podcast now. That's the
This is
voice.
just this is gonna be me reading this whole book in a Morgan Freeman impression.
I would listen. Absolutely. I'd listen to the whole thing.
I think there's already an audio book out of the book, but
Well, did
like there'll
Morgan
be some
Freeman read
random,
it?
yeah, there'll be some random like very small segment of Avatar fans like, yeah, there's the regular audio book version, but did you find the bootleg Morgan Freeman version of it? Really hard to find.
It's everywhere. It's just not
Yeah,
popular. Like it's easy to find. It's not prominent.
yeah, no.
Yeah, there we go.
Um, anyway, prologue is really all about Yoon. It takes place right after Yoon is taken by the spirit that was able to tell who the Avatar was between Kyoshi and Yoon. And it picks up right off that point. Pretty much, Yoon is confronting the spirit. The spirit's name is Father Glowworm. And that's all we know really from this chapter. This chapter was really just putting us right in the mindset of Yoon.
It's like a nice way of doing the last time on Rise of Kyoshi without recapping the whole
Hmm.
story, just putting you back in the shoes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it was good to get that point because you would have easily kind of forgotten all about Yoon because like so much happens in that book. Although Yoon does come at the end of Rise of Kyoshi. Um,
A lot of names though in that whole book in general. There's a lot
yeah,
of names that even I claim it's like my favorite novel, and I still a lot of new characters and names to remember. So
yeah,
good. Read the
um,
prologue.
yeah. The one thing about it kind of leaves you on a cliffhanger. This chapter does because Father Glowworm is pretty much like sizing up Yoon, like he's about to attack him. Also, Father Glowworm wants to get to the human world for some reason or another. I kind of forgot that.
I think just to be an a hole.
I think, yeah, I think so. But yeah, there's no real motivation there.
No,
Um, but the end of this chapter kind of leaves you on kind of gives you a misdirection and also a cliffhanger because in there, Fog Glowworm is talking to Yoon and they're kind of arguing or bickering back and forth, and eventually, Fog Glowworm is like, "Now be grateful, for we are about to become one." And so you kind of have that in your head that Yoon and Father Glowworm are going to become maybe kind of like a new avatar, or at least a spirit slash human hybrid who Father Glowworm is going to be in full control of.
that's way more than I interpreted out of it at the time. I was just like reading words.
The thing is, sometimes when I'm reading a book, I find myself just reading words and not necessarily like, oh wait, crap, what's going on here? Especially when there's like a description going on. But
Yeah, I do that frequently, even when I like
yeah,
books. So, oh, well, there's the prologue for you. Excellent, excellent teaser, excellent taste. So the real
yeah.
chapter one. I'll let you
Yes.
read the chapters.
Chapter 2, Unfinished Business.
Well done.
Brother Poe once told Kuji the nickname for the Dial Sword was All Men's Courage. Hold the sturdy chopping blade that let you hack away at your foe with abandon, and you'd feel braver immediately. Yeah. So,
I
so
was curious as to how long you're going to keep going. I was just
maybe
listening
I'll just
intently,
read the first couple sentences of each chapter. That way,
just to get
that,
yourself
that
in the
will
mood of that
that will
chapter.
either make people mad or make people happy.
It's going to be very polarizing, but we'll take it. We're risky.
Yeah. Okay. So I find these couple of first chapters, including this unfinished business chapter, especially this unfinished business chapter, to kind of be um, the dark night of Kyoshi, right? Like to me, this is Kyoshi in her prime, after her first couple of years, in her peak. Like she's the Avatar. She's doing out justice left and right. Like reminds me a lot of the Dark Knight scene. Um, Batman is taking people out. Like some people are like, oh, like um, he's a myth, like he's a legend. And I feel like Kyoshi is very much that way. In this one, I feel like people don't even necessarily know all about her quite yet. I mean, her avatarhood has really only been in like 2 years. But yeah, and just the way she takes people out, that's just like this relenting freaking army of a woman is really impressive.
Missing some
And then
detail in there though. I was sad that in these first couple, the chapters are going to run together for me until we talk about them. But that in her actual combat in these chapters, that there wasn't a little more detail. Like one, you kind
yeah,
of get the
yeah,
detail where you don't get it because you're like in the perspective of a guy inside a building. It's outside.
yeah. That was
Later,
a little
she's down in a
weird, I
basement,
think.
and it just ends on like a all right, but it's not going to be a fair fight, even though it's one on however many, and then it doesn't tell. Like there's a couple times it's like, come on, give me something, but it's all
Yeah.
right. It's okay, just minor
So
complaint.
so Kiyoshi is taking out these Dalfei essentially.
Yeah,
I won't say they're Dalfei. Maybe they're part of Dalfei.
I think
These
so.
criminals, yeah, these criminals. She's taking them out, and eventually she gets to their head boss, and it's none other than Moke. And Moke was in Rise of Kyoshi. They called him like Uncle Moke, and he got away because he was like the second in control in the Dalfei to Zhu, who Kyoshi killed. And I really like their banter back and forth because it's kind of like Oak is really scared of her, but at the same time, he's still trying to, I don't know, make digs at her. He blames her. He like, um, he says stuff like, "Oh, well, you murdered Zhu," and then that pisses her off because she's like, first of all, it was a fair fight. Like we both went into the fight with the rules of engagement. He was going to kill me as per the rules, and I killed him as per the rules. There was no murder about it. This is a we yeah, we knew what we were getting into.
Probably just don't pick fights with avatars would be my first suggestion, I suppose.
Yeah. And then she has a couple of BA moments in this. There's a part where Yoon is I'm sorry, not Yoon. Moke is like he finally gets like all of his army in there, and Kyoshi is just like, all right, listen, guys, you guys need to go turn yourselves in. And they're like, we refuse. And then she says, all right, then. In that case, I have only one question. Are you sure this is all of you? If not, I can wait until everyone arrives. I don't want to have to go back in and check each floor. And then it just says like, and this is the part where I think you're getting at that they didn't really describe a lot of fighting because it just says the hatchetmen charged from all directions. Kyoshi drew one of her fans. Two would have been a bit much, and there's a space. And then Kyoshi stepped over the groaning bodies, so it just skipped over her taking out all those people, which
I'm,
that would have been cool to see.
I'm gonna fill in the detail though. It was actually very smooth and quick, at least in my head. And she's such a powerful bender. And I assume that a lot of these Daofei are benders as well. Maybe not. Maybe some, maybe none. But that she's so powerful that she just like lifted the floor because they're in the ground floor, like the entire
Yeah,
floor of the whole room around her, and she just lifted it and started like crushing them just enough to like make them unconscious, and then lowered it back down. So she just had a good spread of bodies all around her, where they wound up when she started not killing them. That's what I did. That's what I said in my head. There wasn't a lot of martial artistry. It was quick and clean because she's got stuff to do.
yeah. So essentially, at that point, Milk is beaten, but there's like this random person who's like sneaks us on Kyoshi, and he's like about to kill her, but then he realizes it's Kyoshi, and it's I forgot his name. It was one of the creepy guys who was like the third in command with the Daofei with the yellow necks. But he was the one like when Kyoshi went into the Avatar state and everyone and after she killed you and everyone ran away, he just stood there like staring at Kyoshi as like a god. He bowed to her, and then she just yelled, "Get leave" or something like that, and he left. And then this one, he stops what he was about to do because he realizes it's Kyoshi, and he like it says Wei bowed his head to the ground and prostrated himself before the Avatar. I kind of love that. Like, and to me, again, this is like the Dark Knight, right? Like we're getting villains um, that were in the previous installment, like in that first scene in the Dark Knight, like it's the Scarecrow. In this case, it's Zhu and Wei.
I'd forgotten totally that it was that guy. I'm glad you brought that up. That's fantastic. Yeah, I would say
Yeah,
like third in command underway or under Moke.
yeah. And that's pretty much the story. Some cops come in, and they're dirty cops because they use this opportunity to like evict poor people. And Kyoshi doesn't stand by that. She pretty much beats them all up, and everyone is still afraid of her. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's very Batman-ish, taking out dirty cops.
That's pretty classic Batman. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Next chapter.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't that much. I don't think these early chapters there's that much, I don't know, story things necessarily. It's take away or anything like that. All right, chapter 3, the invitation. People who complained about how long it took to travel across Ba Sing Se were usually factoring in the congestion. That wasn't a problem for Kyoshi. Crowds tended to part out of her way like grass before the breeze. um, invitation, and again, this is the Batman, right? So in the Dark Knight, after like Batman beats up the Scarecrow, puts him in jail. He goes back to the Batcave, and Alfred there's like tend his wounds. And Alfred is pretty much like, listen, you're going to kill yourself doing all these things. You got to take care of yourself. You should go have a happy life. Things like that. Jinpa is the Alfred and to Kiyoshi. Jinpa is like both of them are like trying to take care of their superhero, and they're underappreciated. They're underpaid, even though they're the type of people who don't care about money anyway. But they deserve raises nonetheless. And the superheroes are very ungrateful to them for the most part, or at least they don't show affection on the outer and the inner side. Like you even hear Kyoshi's thought process at a certain point, like, oh, you know what, he deserves a raise. I shouldn't yell at him. But on the outside, she doesn't treat him the best all the time.
And
Uh,
they grow as the book goes on. It's fine. They grow.
yeah,
Their relationship is probably one of the more amusing pieces of the book.
yeah, it's kind of yeah. I like Jinpa because Jinpa is he's an air nomad, but he doesn't have like the most air nomad qualities, which we'll get into that as the chapters go on.
He's
But
not like a
Jinpa is
real
essentially
evangelical air nomad.
yeah. Jinpa is her assistant. He keeps like all of her on. He's her assistant essentially. Like I said, his her Alfred. It is important to note, like they put in a little bit of foreshadowing, or just to set up that Kyoshi isn't the best at healing herself. Like she can heal herself, but she's like terrible at it. It's not the way it's supposed to look
And
and stuff. She just kind of ragtaggedy heals herself.
it seems to fit the character too, right? Like in my mind, healing's like a very precise, like refined art and the type of thing that she just wouldn't be very good at.
Yeah. Um. Oh yeah. So Jeppa handles all her letters, stuff, and all her requests. Like she gets all these requests from the Earth Kingdom because they want to like pretty much flaunt her or use her one way or another, and Kyoshi hates that. And I love that aspect of Kyoshi. She just doesn't care about all that stuff, nor is she good at it. Like not all avatars are the same, which again I love that aspect of the avatars. Like Korra wouldn't be, the best at these things, and really neither would Aang. Aang might be like too. I wouldn't say older Aang might be different, but younger Aang, I feel like he's a little bit more naive. But yeah, I'll go, and he does want to. I don't know, make people feel sad. He's like, yeah, I'll go visit this person. I'll go check this out, check this out, check this out. While Kyoshi's like, I'm not gonna do this favor for this one nobleman who just wants to have high praise from other people.
I don't think Aang would be real good at picking his battles early on.
Yeah, yeah, especially early on. I think adult Aang would be able to handle it just fine. Oh, she gets invited to the Fire Nation by the Fire Lord himself, and she's really excited about this because she gets to go back and meet Rongi.
I got really excited when I heard it's Fire Nation. I was like, yes.
Yeah, it feels like we haven't been in the Fire Nation in a while. I mean, because Korra didn't take that much place in the Fire Nation. Although the comics goes to the Fire Nation fairly often, but I don't know, it doesn't feel as Fire Nation-y for some reason.
It's Fire Nation.
But
Well, this is
and
prequel
yeah,
Fire Nation, so it's kind of weird. And I don't know, we'll get to it when we get to it, but it's like it did a nice job of like painting a picture of something where you're waiting on something really big to happen, but you're not sure what. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And she's like, all right, I will accept the invitation, and she kind of smiles and everything, because she just wants to get back to Rangi.
I'm pretty sure Jinpa's onto her from the start, but that's okay. Didn't change. Didn't change anything.
All right, next chapter, Past Lives. Jimpa's bison Yin Yang had only 5 feet instead of the usual 6. As a calf, he'd been attacked by a predator and lost his left forelimb. As an adult, the injury caused him to lift slightly to the side when he was flying, which required Jimpa to give a gentle tug with the reins in the opposite direction every so often to maintain a straight course through the air.
Poor Ying Yang.
Yeah, poor little bison. No, yeah, so sad. Um, I feel like not that much happens in this besides Quark being the worst avatar. That he is not good at communicating. Uh,
Like, can you even make a
like,
connection right, correct? Come on.
like, I mean, I get it's half Kyoshi's fault. It's a two-way street, right? Like if we think about Aang
Neither one
wasn't
real good at the spiritual communication. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, even if you had Roku and Aang, Roku I would think was fairly good spiritual. Aang is a very spiritual person, but he never knew about how do you commune to your past lives. Like it took the winter solstice for them to talk. It was like just the winter solstice, and that did it. I don't think. I think maybe they mentioned that Kyoshi tried something like that and it still didn't work.
Yeah, I think it said she like tried in secret once or twice and wasn't going well, or something akin to that.
Yeah.
What you said is very familiar.
So what Korg does, Korg just like slams on the door to her psyche out of nowhere and
Just
doesn't.
knocks her out cold.
Yeah, pretty
Right?
much.
Like, doesn't she falls off the bison while they're flying, just
Uh,
or
it comes up.
falls off, or almost falls off.
Yeah, yeah. So it says, um, so Kyoshi is just talking to Jinpa and like just mid sentence, it's just Kyoshi. She screamed as a bolt of pain drove into her skull. From temple to temple, it seized her by the neck and scored her vision into a blur. Her hands went limp and lost her grip on the saddle. Kyoshi keeled over the edge and fell off the bison, her ears filled with the sound of her own name. It was curious. And the thing about this book, right, is it sets you up to make you keep thinking like, man, Kuruk is just. And their last book leaves you on the note that like Kuruk was terrible. Like he left his own friends in a state that the world would fall into chaos. He's terrible at communicating to Kyoshi, and Kyoshi hates Kuruk as well because she kind of blames him for her life. Although if
Or
he didn't die,
at least like the Team Avatar repercussions that it had on her, at a minimum.
yeah. Um, and so Kuruk is like trying to communicate to her. He just says, Kyoshi, 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 you must. I can't. It can pass. And it's just little bits of things. Oh, Kyoshi, need your help too. Which we'll get to that need your help too point later. Um, and so Jinpa is pretty much like, hey, what was that? And Kyoshi's like, oh, it's nothing. Every now and then Kuruk like just tries to communicate with me and it just really hurts my body and mind. But it's nothing. I'll get over it.
It's just a little spiritual assault that also has physical repercussions. I wouldn't even worry about it. It's no big deal. A little aspirin.
Yeah. He was trying to tell me something. And the thing is, I feel like she has such little respect for Korg that whatever he's trying to tell her, she's probably like, it's not all that important.
As would we. As would we.
Yeah. Um, and she says, usually not this bad. It wasn't so painful the last couple of times. It says, Jimpa's jaws threaten to unhinge and fall into the ocean. It's like, these episodes have happened before and you haven't told me? Kyoshi, an avatar communing with her past selves is supposed to be a hallowed experience, not a life-threatening seizure. And again, I love the lore or just the little details that they drop into it about like, oh, being able to talk to your past lives is it's such a beautiful thing and like it's supposed to be like very spiritual experience, and for her is the complete opposite.
This is like
Um,
a Harry Potter moment for me, where it's like Jinpa knows more about you than you do. You, the
yeah.
Avatar, not you, Kyoshi, of course.
Um, and then just the way it reads, like whenever all those things happen to her, whenever Kurg is trying to get in touch with her, just like all I was getting was jagged fragments of Korg and only Korg every single time. Eventually, she stopped trying to commune to Korg. As if she hadn't been the greatest admirer of Kurg anyway, and if he was the only past life out of thousands generations willing to make into contact with her, then she would do it, and she could do without it. uh, and
Kind of
she pretty much
snotty,
just
but I get
says,
it.
it's not a big deal. She said that to Jimpa. I can never tell what he's trying to say. And Jimpa says, if an avatar of the past has a message for you, it's usually of the utmost importance. And Kyoshi's like, fine, fine. I'll get somebody to tell me how to be a good spirit person. And it makes that's one of the times that Kyoshi like yells at him for no good reason.
For him trying to be genuinely helpful and useful and
Yeah.
meaning no harm whatsoever. Not to mention, how hard can it be to find somebody who knows how to contact previous avatars? That's all over the place, probably.
Yeah. All right, yeah, so that's pretty much that chapter. Yeah, again, like yeah, the story might be I don't know, a little bit more slower, I think, than the Shadow of I'm sorry, than the Rise of Kyoshi.
Remember,
I
the Rise
mean,
of Kyoshi did like it started slow, like maybe more interesting because we got to see that who's the avatar, and then we being in the present knew that it was going to be Kyoshi, so it's like interesting of how they're going to get there. But
yeah.
it started
I,
slow, and then at some point, things snapped into action. This one just
yeah, I
doesn't have like
think
the same sort of hook in the early going as we had previously.
yeah, I think for people who might read both books and aren't familiar with the Avatar world, which that would be weird. Like I'll be really curious if anyone is actually like, oh, I've never read Avatar. I never watched either show before, but I decided to pick up this novel. Like I want to find that person and pick their brain
And
a
ask
little
them
bit.
why. No, I'm just kidding. I bet you're one of those
Uh,
the Jim Gaffigan joke where he's like those people that always say that the book is better than the movie. You know what my favorite thing about the movie is? No reading. Just kidding. I like reading.
yeah, they both definitely kind of go a little slower, but yeah, with Brought to Kyoshi, you just got that your inside information keeps you hooked
It
on it
does.
because you're
Wondering
like,
how you're going to get to the place where you know it's going.
yeah. All right, next chapter, the reunion. It was strange to think that getting closer to a string of active volcanoes would make them feel better. But here, they were approaching the Fire Nation. Um, and this chapter pretty much comes down, I feel like, to the Rangi. Sorry, Rangi is actually the right pronunciation. And I only know that because I have the audiobook to Rise of Kyoshi.
I'm glad
And
that the
yeah,
audiobooks got an answer for some of these questions. But I think, in our defense, I think we had settled on we thought Rongi last year.
I think so.
I think we were.
Oh, somebody fact check that.
Think, somebody go listen to that
Hey,
2 hour.
Joel, fact check that for me. So like I listen to the Scrubs podcast and like they have like producers on it, and like every now and then they'll be like, "Hey, can you go look this up? What episode did I have my shirt off for the first time?" And then like the person would be like, "Go and look it up." It was episode 2, Donald. Episode 2. Like I know we don't have fact checkers here.
Sometimes when I listen to other podcasts, and I don't know why I get sort of a weird pride where I'm like, I'm having so much fun listening to these guys. We probably bring the same level of joy and quality to people, right? And then they'll like yell at a producer and overlay like an audio clip or something really clever and easy. And I'm like, all right, never mind.
Um,
And their fancy Patreons.
yeah. I don't think I'll ever have. I don't know what it would take me to get like a Patreon
At
account. I
a
mean, I
certain point,
don't.
you would almost have to just for like the legitimacy and like credibility. Like why not? Even if you did it for some other reasons, but I don't think that's in our near future. Not as a podcast. You as a YouTuber
Maybe.
individually are closer to it than we as a podcaster.
I mean, I've made. I think like maybe like $1,000 now off of YouTube, so that's cool.
Nice. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, a whole stimulus check there, almost. I need to make a new video because like I can tell when people started watching Avatar and it's going down now. Like,
It
all right,
took
we
a
watched
like
it.
a real big spike. Well, get one out in the next 2 weeks if you can. I'm saying
The
that like
thing
I'm
is,
your manager or something, but no, it'd be a good idea.
yeah, I'm currently writing a script for my Nets videos. It's about Avatar Korok and and uh and his life and times and struggles and what we can learn from it. Granted, I don't think that's going to do as well as who did Zuko marry,
No, that was a big one. That was a big one for sure. Um, I
or
think
who Sokka married, or Korra versus Aang.
hopefully in that Venn
But
diagram of people interested in the Legend of Korra and people who are interested in this book, and there's a lot of crossover that you can still hit in there with any Avatar content at that time.
yeah. Okay, so reunion. So most of this chapter is just like descriptions of the Fire Nation and how Kyoshi is like, I don't know, interpreting them or whatever. Which that part's kind of boring to me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
In
'cause,
short, it builds up this sort of like a proud. Uh, I don't know how else to like a very proud nation. It's
proud, meticulous,
mm-hmm.
national,
Yeah, kind of
army-driven
nationalistic. I think is fair.
perfectionists.
And that's majority of what it's getting at.
Yeah. To me, like, yeah, those are the parts that I'm just like reading.
Just
And
taking
yeah.
in words, yeah.
So eventually they land in the Fire Nation. They get to a big gate. And I like how they describe this. It's like they came to a heavy barred, unbendable iron gate. There were a few holes. And anyway, Kyoshi wondered if she was supposed to knock before whatever, whatever. Anyway, somewhere inside, the gears of the heavy gate started lifting. The gate moved, not outward or inward, but straight up. A girl stood on the other side, revealed by inches, as if she were too much of a person. And then eventually it's shown to be Rangi and and yeah, and their reunion is it's pretty cute. Rangi says, "I had to sprint over here," and then Kyoshi says, "Is that how you did it all the time?" Because Rangi would always, for some reason, growing up, be right by Kyoshi, but Kyoshi wouldn't see her sneaking up on her. But
Like
she's like,
always kind of
"Yeah,"
right around the corner. Yeah.
and usually she's not out of breath, but she's like, "I must be liking in my training." But
I really liked
uh,
that it was like a stealth mission of like when she pulls her. Is at this corner when she this chapter when she pulls her around the corner and she's like it's the one spot where the guards can't see and it's like she's been playing Metal Gear Solid or something.
yeah, it says like the illusion was kind of broken for Kyoshi, knowing she'd simply been running at top speed from place to place, hurt the mystique a little. It's kind of like in relationships, you start to know more about the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, this person that I've kind of put on a pedestal isn't as, um, I don't know, they're human, right?
I'm
Like,
only gonna say this because I know my wife will never listen to this episode, but my wife's hair is very straight. And then, like when we would go on dates, like on a real date, on rare occasion in college, when we would like cobble together $30 to go to Applebee's or whatever, and she would curl her hair, and she always seemed like she complained about it, like the process and everything. I never knew how she did it. It was lots of hairspray. It wasn't until we got married that she told me or demonstrated, I guess, she just like doesn't wash her hair the day before and then just like a can of hairspray. That's how she gets it. And I was like, you know what? That actually does hurt the mystique a little. So when Kyoshi was saying this, I empathized right away. I was like, I get it. It hurts a little bit.
yeah. Also, I kind of want to note, Kelsey's a little nervous coming here because she's like, "What is our relationship like?" Like she doesn't know. It's been 2 years since the events of Rise of Kyoshi.
Maybe she
Um,
got another
and
girlfriend or whatever. Who should have known?
yeah. So eventually, Rangi says, "At least I don't have to worry about the other fire nationals seeing me right now. The only blind spot in the defenses is right here, directly under the gate itself, which means I can do this." And it says that uh, she gives a nice searing kiss to Kyoshi, and then we'll move right into the next chapter of cultural diplomacy.
At the end of that chapter, that's when I like I am you and Jamie from my terrible internet, and that's hit me right in the feels.
Ah, okay.
Got me feeling real
Uh,
good.
so let's paint the scene. Kyoshi just got kissed by her love of her life, not knowing if she was still the love of her life. Kyoshi forgot what she was supposed to be doing, where she was, which way was up. Memories faded before the warmth of Rangi's lips. The two of them melted into each other, alloyed. And then, in supreme display of cruelty, as far as Kyoshi was concerned, Rangi broke it off and took a step back. Welcome to the Fire Nation, Avatar. uh, It's like, what it just describes. I just like. I feel like we got more into the mindset of Kyoshi, and this Kyoshi's like, wait, what? Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Let's go back to what we were doing before, and then this official "Welcome to the Fire Nation" avatar stuff.
Like he did it out of order or something. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and then yeah, then and they kind of meet up. Jinpa then meets them, and yeah, so they kind of take a nice tour of the Fire Nation. I don't think Jimpa's been there before, um, and neither has Kyoshi. And yeah, they go on this tour. They meet up with a like a Fire Nation, I don't know, historian guy, and
It's
he
like,
tells them a bunch of Fire Nation history.
and it's not horribly exciting.
I like the Fire Nation history aspect of it. Like I said, the one of the in our non-spoiler review, one of the things I loved about this book was that it was like a Avatar Wikipedia. And I just like consuming more Avatar history and world building. And so for
Yeah.
me,
No, go ahead.
I was like, just for me, so for me, I just loved it.
And that for me, this would strike me as another part where it's just kind of like reading words again. I was interested in the festival in the background of Avatar Seto Kaiba, Avatar Zito. Um, just immediate and actually getting to learn about an actual Avatar. That's pretty interesting to me. Um, the rest, fine. That's
Mhm.
all right. Interesting to
Yeah,
see how
essentially
the
they
Fire Nation came to be sort of a unified nation, perhaps.
yeah, so they say that like each each noble house of the Fire Nation is descended from one of the old warlords from the period before the country was united. And they were on the brink of another civil war because there was like uh, plague, natural disasters. They're on the verge of collapse. And this was during Seto's childhood, and he applied for the job, like we said. And oh, I feel like we in the future we have a ranking the avatars video coming out, and for some reason I was like, oh yeah, we said this in a podcast, but that episode's not out yet. But we recorded it last week. Not important. Um,
Good future predictions there. I like that.
yeah. Anyway, this talks about how Zeto applied for a job, and then he eventually rose up in that job, and it made him to be pretty much a advisor to the Fire Lord, and they he was like an accountant and everything, and
Probably
he was
cooking the
able
books for the Fire Nation.
yeah he was able to open hostilities between rival noble houses, and a lasting peace followed in which he continued to serve his country with dignity and excellence. So, like, his victories were the Fire Lord's victories. They worked pretty much hand in hand. And he made the bank work really well. He said that he put an end to debasement of coins. Pretty much ends with truly Avatar Zeto was an idea for us officials to live up to and a shining example of Fire Nation values in general: efficiency, precision, and loyalty.
He sounds
And
like the most boring avatar of all time.
yeah, this guy, like, the thing is, the first time we see this guy, he bends the lava out of volcanoes. And now it's like he
Now
was
he's
an
an
accountant.
accountant. I probably developed the CPA exam that guy took. He is an accountant. That's what. If a Netflix series comes out about this Avatar, it's gonna look more like Office Space than Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's gonna be terrible.
Oh gosh, like what if you know how
I'd still
like
watch it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
like sometimes like I don't know, superheroes take on different genres of movie or stuff like um I don't know, they're just like a superhero is a genre itself, but they can do different genres. Like one can be a comedy, one could be a sci-fi movie, one is just a straight up action movie. And like, what if they did that with Avatar, and then they got to like, all right, you know what? We're just gonna do the Office Space.
It's
All right, let's
Office Space, but
just
Avatar.
Avatar Zeto.
And they're
It'd just be
interviewing
like,
him, and he's like, I do about 10 minutes of actual work every day. No, he'd be the
but,
opposite.
but
He would be
I
he would be
imagine
the
it'll
Dwight.
be
He'd be the Dwight Schrute. Sorry, Office. I switched a little bit, but
yeah. He wouldn't be the Michael if it was the Office Space. He'll be the guy being like, "Hey, you got those TPS reports for me?" And like he'll be in perspective of the other guy, like, "No, sorry, Avatar." And then he'll just glow his eyes and be like, "I need those reports now."
yeah, I'm gonna need you to do those now.
The balance of the world depends on it.
I'd still watch. Yeah, so we got different superhero genres. Why not have different? I mean, even Korra and versus Aang versus these novels, they all take on slightly different genres to an extent. I'm ready for Office Space Avatar.
Yeah. And so Kyoshi is like learning this history. She's really interested in the history of Zeto 'cause she's like, "Oh, I like this Zeto guy. Like he seems buried in Cork." And essentially, um,
Which is funny because he's like the opposite of her. Like he's into diplomacy. He's not hand to hand combating anything. Like
yeah,
she just, I get it though. I get what you're saying.
yeah. That's pretty much the history of Avatar Zeto. Like, yeah, I found that stuff to be interesting. Also, we got the actual name of Avatar Zeto.
Not
Although I
Jafar.
do miss our name we chose from Rozukin. I think that's a really good name.
I keep forgetting that we picked that. I actually thought you were going for the Avatar Jafar, which is
No,
just
to me,
visually and positionally is a great comp.
I mean, I get it, but it was too on the nose for me,
It
which is why I never floated that name.
That's fair.
And
But Rozukin, that was a we dug into the what do you call it? The origins, the phonetic origins of Fire Nation names, and picked our favorite letters
yeah,
from it.
all the letters.
All of the
There's
most important
O's,
letters.
there's Z's, there's K's, there's R's.
Got it. We hit them all.
Yeah, Jafar would not be
No, it would
a
be a
Fire
bad
Nation
part.
name.
Uh,
It'll probably be an Earth-bending name at most.
I think so, but I'm still gonna call him Avatar Seto, especially
Yes.
because I'm in a Yu-Gi-Oh mode right now. Is this the chapter? Remind me, is this the chapter where they see the drawing on the painting, and
Yes.
the tour
Yeah.
guide gets all pissy? It's like, don't mention this.
Yes. Yeah. So in this Great Hall, they have paintings of the Fire Lords, and they have paintings of the avatars. And we've seen the audience, we've seen the paintings of the Fire Lords before. Um, but now we now we know why there weren't paintings of the avatars, but we'll get they were destroyed
Yeah,
at one point. But yeah, the paintings of the Fire Lords still remained. But yeah, under Fire Lord Zoro's painting, which would be Zoryo,
I've been
and
saying
his painting
Zoryu, but I can go either way on that.
Zoryu.
I,
Yeah, Zoryu. Sorry. Yeah, Zoryu. Zoryu's
it's
good.
it's tough until we get an audiobook.
Like there was like just a little hints of of uh of betrayal in it. And yeah, and Kyoshi's like, I know flower arrangements and that's weird. It shouldn't be like this. Yeah, and the counselor guy is like, don't tell anyone about this. And it kind of creates this feeling of like, what the heck is going on here?
This is where you start waiting on something bad to happen as like a direct relation to this. At least for me, like foreboding tension kind of, which is funny because it doesn't end up immediately having to do with this. But anyway, next chapter, or maybe a few down the line.
Not that much left in this chapter. Pretty
Oh,
much.
sorry, I wasn't saying move to the next chapter. I'm saying I think that part that we're getting to is a few chapters down. Sorry.
Yeah, pretty much. So they're done with their tour, and then Kyoshi's just like wants she just wants to get some time alone with Rangi.
She's thirsty.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Which is it's so reminiscent. There's a scene in a Korra comic, and Korra just like wants to spend some time with with Asami, but she gets interrupted by Sue Yen, and and so Kyoshi says to Jinpa, because it's Jinpa, Kyoshi, and Rangi together, and Kyoshi says, "Can you give us some time alone?" She asks him, motioning at the door. And then Rangi says, "Not so fast. Report, please, Brother Jinpa." And he just pretty much lays out like all the terrible things Kyoshi has done, or her irresponsibilities, how she's not eating, how how she's just throwing herself headfirst into situations that are the most dangerous. um, And Kyoshi's like mad at him. Like, okay, this apparently was his revenge that he's been setting up this whole time.
That's how he's keeping it so cool this whole time. He's got it in game.
Yeah, and I just like how Rangi is like had him in her pocket this whole time
We should
to
have
look
known.
after.
We should have suspected.
I like how, and then they just talk about Kyoshi like about her straight to her face, and it makes Kyoshi so mad. She's like, "You can't talk about me like this." Like, and and the narration says, "In the Dao Fei code, snitches were punished by thunderbolts and knives." And then she says, "I am your boss." And then Jinpa says, "That may be, but she's clearly the one in charge." So it's kind of interesting that
Oh
they kind
snap!
of laid who wears the pants in the. I feel like I need a new saying that's I don't know who
Yeah, I
pretty much who's in
suppose.
charge.
I see how that could be like construed poorly. Yeah, I get it.
And then finally Jinpa leaves, and like I feel like this is reading almost like a I don't know, a romance novel because it says, and then suddenly, for the first time in a long time, Kyoshi and Rangi were together alone. And then
Ew. Just kidding. Just kidding. I was so excited for him.
and then eventually they get to a point where I mean they're talking about serious stuff, which I know Kyoshi just she's just I don't feel like talking about the serious stuff. Um and then they get to a point where so they have to go to a party that the Fire Lord is putting on, and then Rangi says it says she decided on a different track, coming closer with a hint of sway in her hips. A sway in her hips. And she says to Kyoshi, "You know the party's not for a few hours." Her voice grew heated and breathy. "I have an idea how to get your mind off your troubles until then." And it says a dumb grin spread across Kyoshi's face.
It's like turning into a
Uh,
Danielle Steele romance novel here all of a sudden.
yeah. And then Rangi says, "Dance training." And then she makes her train. And eventually Kyoshi is like, "But I thought we were like you could just tell Kyoshi's just like the agony."
Might have dumped her right there. I don't know.
I just love how just how these avatars are sometimes.
It's good to
I
see
mean, hey,
the human parts.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing about this book is that I think Kyoshi has way more personality in this book, and it even comes through the narration, especially. Um, but yeah, very human of Kyoshi. Uh, um, all right, so yeah, that's the end of that chapter. The next chapter is performance. Kyoshi stepped out of the dressing chamber feeling readier for the trials ahead. She'd grown more skilled at wielding the many layers of her outfit and could pull them on without his assistance now. As she entered the bedroom, she cinched her sash as if buckling down a shield. And that wasn't as cool, but
Certainly the
like
least helpful first
some
two sentences of the
yeah,
book so far.
sometimes it's funny in the more room voice, like the first chapter of it. I think the last one was good, but that one was just boring.
Yeah.
Um, so the performance is so they get to the party and and pretty much Kyoshi just to me this is probably one of the most pressure moments in the book, which is weird because it's just a party, but it's like the Fire Nation is so much about like formality and stuff. It's like you can't just ignore every person who wants to meet you, but some people you should ignore because they're not important. But other people you have to pay them attention because you're the avatar. Like you're, and also even if you weren't the avatar, this stuff is very important anyway. Um,
Which is the
and
opposite of the kind of human that I know how to be at a party. Not that I'm a party animal, but when I go to a party, I usually just like to eat food. So I felt really bad for Kiyoshi for having to play this mental game.
um, yeah, so then yeah, so they just get ready for the party. Da-da-da. Yeah, not that much happens until uh, um. Let's see. Party where Kyoshi meets Fire Lord. Yeah, essentially just walk. Oh, Kyoshi runs into Liu Beifong, and they kind of talk about it, talk about stuff. And then he has with him like this governor from someplace, and he pretty much tells Kyoshi like, "Hey, you wronged me in this one sense. Like, um, it was like some property that the Daofei had owned that he owned, but the Daofei stole from him. But then Kyoshi is like, listen, you're the one who was like sharecropping this property out. I gave it back to the people. You know, if you have a problem with that, or if you want to talk about money, you should pay me because I've been taking out the Daofei for you." And then and so pretty much she calls him out on his crap, and he walks away very disgruntled.
Lou rips that guy a new one.
Yeah, yeah, and even Lou is like, you didn't tell me that you've been like sharecropping this property and stuff. Um, and then afterwards, and like Kyoshi, and you're not supposed to do that at this part. You're not supposed to call people out on their crap because you're supposed to be professional and polite and everything. Like, because in the Fire Nation, anything can lead to an Agni Kai. Anything can be a sign of disrespect. And she ultimately disrespected the guy, even though he deserved
At least those other Earthbenders, like they challenge me to an Agni Kai, I'm gonna be all right.
it. um, and then Rangi says, as much as I love watching you verbally set people on fire, be a little bit more careful. That same conversation between two fire nationals could have ended with an Agni Kai. Yeah. And she does say, I'll do better next time, but we'll see. And that's is the head mistress chapter. In this chapter, Kyoshi meets Becca with Heiran. She hasn't seen Heiran um, since she was poisoned by Jianju. Oh, actually, I meant to say his name's actually pronounced Jianju, which I guess I should have known that and not Jianju. Jianju.
I feel
That's
like we
just
were pretty
John.
close to that
Yeah.
ish. 80% on phonetics.
All right. I
John
think I'm
Ju.
gonna stop
John
doing the
Ju.
Morgan Freeman voice thing unless there's a good
Has to be an inspiring passage. Ah, that just makes me want to
yeah.
go watch that, especially because the NBA is back on. I watched a little bit of that before I came in here. It makes me want to go watch that Frank Caliendo reading the LeBron letter as Morgan Freeman. That's one of my
That was a good
favorites.
one. Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. But another time, we'll review that on its own another time.
Yeah, that was a good one. Um, so Heiron is back, but she's still not like full strength. But she has with her um a water bending master who's been helping her heal her and everything. But before that, Heiron just apologizes to Kyoshi, um, saying um, that she was sorry what she put Kyoshi through and Yun through because of her not realizing who the Avatar was and her letting Jianju kind of do push Yoon too far even before when they thought he was the Avatar. And they kind of come to an understanding like Heiron says, Kyoshi, like, I would kill him, essentially. If he was here, I would kill him. Kyoshi's like, me too. I feel like they have this weird bond over like we're cool with killing people bond.
It's a strange way, but it's also, it's a pretty serious deal. The kind of thing that
Yeah.
you could form a bond over, I suppose.
Um, so she apologizes to Kyoshi. Oh, really good. These were the parts that I think hit me more in the in the heart. So Heiran is apologizing. She says, "I can never make this right." Kyoshi says, "Your recovery is a good start." Heiran looked at her puzzled, and Kyoshi says, toward paying your debt to me. What I demand from you, headmistress, is your continued good health. I'll accept no less than what I am owed. And then she says, Kyoshi, this isn't the time for jokes. And then Rangi says, she's not joking, mother. And says, Rangi smiles, overflowed with love for them both. Like, ah.
My heart.
Yeah. And Rangi says, she's simply like that. Now swallow your pride and accept the decree of the Avatar. And Heiron says, Heiron laughed again, though there was no gladness in the sound. She patted her daughter's hand. I'm all right. Anyway, um, she says, I need a moment with Kyoshi. She tells Heiron, Heiron tells Rangi to go find Sifu Atuat. I would think that's
I
pronounced
never
At.
even took a guess. That's one that I just read and I didn't let my brain try
Your
to
brain did
pronounce it.
not say
Mm-mm.
anything.
Mm-mm.
I believe it's like Atuat.
I'll take it. That
Oh,
sounds great.
yeah. Sifu Atuat. Anyway, so Kyoshi and Heiron have another one-on-one, but this one is more like, yeah, I would kill Jianju, and then she says, so would I, good girl. Yeah, so they bond. I misput where this place was at. And then they pretty much come to understanding of like, hey, do what you can to protect my daughter. Like, and um, Kyoshi says, I know exactly what to do with anyone who would hurt your daughter. So this is one of those talks that that the parents have with the significant other of their child. You know, Kyoshi doesn't know that fully at this point, which is not it's not the most clear because Heiron's pretty more official and straightforward with it, but which I think is good because it sets up for a better moment later in the book. Like this
Mm.
very matter of fact, straightforward, almost um, unknowing speech or conversation here, I think pays off in a few chapters down the line.
Yeah, it becomes like a breakthrough point later,
Yeah.
personally. So that's yep.
All right. So Heiron, I'm sorry, Rangi brings over Atuat, Sifu Atuat to the to the place. It says Sifu Atuat. Sorry, Atuat Kyoshi. Rangi says Kyoshi, this is Sifu Atuat. She's like the greatest of the northern healers, and she's like really great, like better than Katara, like better than anybody healing wise. She essentially says, if your innards start falling, I can simply bring you back to life. I did before, or like I did before. She tells that to Heiron, and then says she turned to Kyoshi, acknowledging the Avatar for the first time. I'm that skilled. Like, oh, also just the way that she's introduced. She's kind of introduced as like, I feel like loud and a little obnoxious, and like she likes to drink and stuff. She's the
Little,
opposite of Heiron.
little vulgar lesh.
Yeah. Um, yeah, she says to Kyoshi about like learning how to bend and stuff in the Northern Water Tribe. Um, I say some men who aren't allowed to learn healing from me. Any idiot can punch someone with water. I punch dying people's energy pathways with water such that they live for another handful of decades. Yeah, so she's that powerful.
I love the way she worded it too.
Yeah. Oh, and then you learn that she was Master Amak's sister. Master Amak was like briefly in Rise of Kyoshi. He was Yoon's water bending teacher, who was like really. I don't know. I just found him to be a little weird.
Pretty jacked up. He did the whole spider snake venom in the eyeballs thing.
Yeah.
Pretty much the sum
Yeah.
of all my fears, which is spiders, snakes, and eye drops.
Oh god. That's one reason why I'm glad I have good eyes. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
deal like oh, just the thought of people putting in contact lenses like it like my sister used to do it like, all right, let's open your eyeball and then put something in it. Like that just seems
Not interested. And
no.
fun fact
I,
about me:
I
glasses and sunglasses and give me headaches. So I'm sure you get over that eventually.
yeah, I would just wear glasses. I just wouldn't do contacts.
So Master Amok, I don't miss you.
Yeah. Um and then so Jimpa's also at the party and like Jimpa is he's like Aang to me in a lot of sense that he likes drawing in the crowd and doing tricks. Like I'm
Mm.
just reminded of when Aang was at the Earth King Bosco's birthday party, and he was doing tricks for everybody. Um, let's see. Oh, so so at the end of this chapter, um, um, oh, not the end of the chapter. There comes a point in the chapter where Rangi says something to the sense of like how different they are, how different Heiran and Atuat is. And she says, sometimes I think making a friend cured her more than anything else. And then Kyoshi asks, does she know about us? And Rangi's like, of course. Wasn't that what the two of you were talking about by yourselves? Her giving you the whole you better treat my daughter right or else speech? Says Kyoshi supposed that had been part of the conversation in a roundabout way. She decided not to mention the particulars, but like Kyoshi had no idea that's what the conversation was about. Rightfully so. It wasn't that straightforward.
It was arbitrary at best, a little
Yeah.
obtuse.
So this is the part that I just knew was going to happen while reading this book. Right? Kyoshi's at this party. She has to be on her best behavior, her absolute best behavior, and then she has to like meet the Fire Lord at just the right point. She can't be too quick. He can't be. She has to go at his pace. She comes across this person who's dressed in like full, pretty much Fire Lord uh, regal. And like the way they're describing him, I'm just like, they're not gonna say the crown. They're not gonna say the crown. And they didn't say the crown. I'm like, dang it, Kyoshi. Dang it, Kyoshi.
Don't do it. Don't do
Um,
it. If you just skip
because
ahead of those pages, then it doesn't happen.
yeah, he comes across her and says, Avatar Kyoshi. And then she's like, Fire Lord. And then like she feels like she's doing really good. Like she's bouncing off of him, like sounding proper, and she just gets this knee in the back of her or something, and then she's like, "Oh, it's Rangi, but I'm doing good. I'm doing good." And then eventually Rangi just like, I don't know, hurts her so bad. She's like, "Kyoshi, that's not the Fire Lord." It's like, yeah. Okay, this might be a good Morgan Freeman one. So set the stage, the crowd is like, holy crap, because everyone's been kind of been watching everything going on. And it's a big deal that Kyoshi called someone who wasn't the Fire Lord. So, on to ancient history. The crowd had frozen. The waiters had frozen. The sun and the sky halted its arc. The celestial bodies had never seen such a colossal blunder in the thousands lifetimes of watching the Avatar.
I think that was your best Morgan Freeman work so far too. That was nicely done.
um, and then he finally says, I should introduce myself, said the man. My name is Chajin. Fire Lord Zoryu is my younger half brother. So like immediately you're kind of put into this world of high stakes Game of Thrones. And more than Game of Thrones that like I don't know, Littlefinger was playing of like how do I maneuver goodwill and change people's perceptions to my benefit. Kind of more of that Game of Thrones.
And you know when you're like watching TV shows, The Office is a good one, and you're embarrassed for the characters in the show, and that like hit me really hard. Like I'm red in the cheeks. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. And then and so finally the Fire Lord Zoryu comes across there. He's like, hello, Kyoshi. And then Chajin is kind of just belittling him. Like he has his shoulder around him, just being really unprofessional. It's like, she thought I was the Avatar. Isn't that? I mean, I'm sorry. She thought I was the Fire Lord. Isn't that funny? Like you can tell this guy just being a jerk about things. You can tell he's trying to manipulate Kyoshi so he can gain some political victories over his half brother. But
Yeah, it sort of unfolds like you've got the idea pretty quickly. I mean, it still explains in detail as we go forward, but you pretty much know what's going on.
yeah. And then it says she didn't appreciate being manipulated, especially by someone she just met, which you fully get that from Kyoshi. And so Kyoshi's so Chajin talks about all the issues the Fire Nation's having. He's like, oh, there's famine going around. Like some say the spirits are are mad at us. because they don't like the way the succession has been done. Because maybe he's alluding to the fact that he is the firstborn of the previous Fire Lord who died recently, but how he's not the Fire Lord. And Kyoshi says to them both, well, she's saying to him, but the Fire Lord is in her presence. She says, if there's an issue with the spirits, I will resolve it on behalf of the Fire Lord. And things to me, that doesn't sound that bad so
Yeah, it
far.
sounds.
Actually,
I
yeah,
mean,
like
I get where they go with it, but it's like it sounds pretty innocent on the surface. Like I'm Spirit Bridge. Yeah, it's
yeah,
fine.
and she says on behalf of the Fire Lord. She does get a little bit more abrasive as it goes on, because she pretty much just tells him to leave and get out of her presence. And then she doesn't know, like, oh, the Fire Lord was supposed to do that. Oh, because like this scene here is used to compare to the scene that she had just like talked to the governor, right? She talked to the governor the same way. He went away with his tail between his legs. Shajin went away with like gleeful of like, oh, giddy, and like it kind of makes Kyoshi even more mad. Like that's not the response I was trying to get out of him, but he got what he needed.
Like when
Um,
somebody says something to fire you up on purpose, and then it works, and you get fired up, and that's what they want. Hate that
yeah.
guy already.
Hey, Ron said, so Rangi is like, Kyoshi, what did you do? What did you just do? And Heiron, it says Kyoshi, she didn't know what she just did. Heiron says, what she done is follow disaster with catastrophe. Um, and pretty much they tell her like everything she did wrong. It was like, listen, it wasn't, um, you didn't insult Chajin, you insulted the Fire Lord because you were in his presence. The Fire Lord is supposed to be the one who dismisses people. You made him look weak. You made it seem like he wasn't able to take care of the situation himself. Like, just made him look completely bad. Oh, and also it's interesting because like Heiron is like, everybody leave now, and then so it describes like Atuat, Kiyoshi, Rangi, and Jinpa, and Fire Lord Zoryu following them. And then I
Yeah.
was like, why is the Fire Lord just taking orders from Heiron? And then you figure it out that he's kind of a pushover, and Heiron was his head mistress,
You know
and
she
she used
doesn't, but
to.
it's almost like she's got like Kyoshi and Zoryu by the ears, like she's tugging them
Yes.
along. Is what it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You listen here, you little
Um,
shits. Come here.
it's like, do I have to do everything myself?
Apparently,
Um, so then Heiron just like rips into everybody, just like Kyoshi, you shouldn't have done all that. You should have known better. Rangi, you should have, um,
hit
you should have.
Kyoshi sooner.
Yeah, you should have prepped her for this. Jinpa, you were off doing magic tricks. Atuat, you're off being loud. And me, myself, I should have also been better at this. And Fire Lord Zorio, you should not be belittling yourself to this. And so, and then, even then, he says, like, sorry or something like that.
Don't be sorry. Be quiet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so in that whole, like, hey, Ron going off on everyone, she says, I'm also to blame. I shouldn't have left your side, but I was distracted. She glared at Atuat, who had just finished a skewer of meat she'd taken along from the party. And she says, what? The water tribe doctor said, picking her teeth with the sharp silver of bamboo. I haven't offended anyone tonight. Frankly, I found everyone else's behavior imprudent and shocking. Um,
She's a delight.
yeah. So eventually they're just complaining or talking about the situation at hand, talk about how Shajin has been trying to conspire to get people to go against the Fire Lord. He has to get more people on his side. And this was a good victory for him tonight in doing that and making his brother look weak. Um, yeah, and that's pretty much, I think that is pretty much that
They explain. I
chapter.
think they explain in this symbol, just real quick, in this chapter, that symbol also was the symbol of his house, the one that was drawn on that painting earlier with the flower arrangement and stuff. I think that's this chapter too.
Yes,
Minor,
yeah.
minor tidbit, but important.
And like a lot of people in in the hall was wearing that symbol, and then Kyoshi can piece together like, oh, all these people are for Chajin. Now, I might be mispronouncing Chajin, but that's
That's
the way
another
I'm.
tough one. I was saying Kajin, but Chajin sounds better. We we could really use an expert, not an avatar expert, a linguistics expert. But all right, you want to go to the next chapter?
Yes. So the crash. Oh wait, at the end of actually it happens at the end of this chapter. At the end of this chapter, they go back to the party and they realize that like all the noblemen and stuff are standing still, and Kyoshi knows that they're being hostages for some reason.
Okay, so
And
here
it
you
says
know
that
that crap hit the fan, and like at the end of this chapter, my brain's going wild. Because
yeah,
I mean, at least personally, you're assuming it's something to do with Chajin. Like the uprising's happening right now, and they're gonna be trapped in the Fire Nation, and that's the rest of this book. And so it's actually that's surprising. I don't know if that's good or bad. In this next chapter here,
yeah. So it says Yoon at the end of that chapter, she sees Yoon and he says, "It's good to see you again, Kyoshi." The crash. Uh, for all her desperate wishing, Kyoshi had never considered what she would actually say to Yoon once she found him. Oh yeah, and we forgot to mention. So Kyoshi has been trying to find Yoon throughout the world, asking people to help her out, but no one wants to help her because it's Yoon, and they're just like, um, this is a big, huge kerfuffle anyway. um,
I bet we have never gotten to use that word on this show before.
okay, the word I forgot where I learned it from. I learned it from a TV show.
That sounds like a
Kerfuffle.
Scrubs thing.
Yeah, Scrubs, Community, maybe
Either
Parks
one,
and
yeah.
Rec. I gotta remember to look it up later because it's gonna bug me. It's gonna bug me if I forget what I was gonna look up all the time. Um, so pretty much just Yoon is just like, hey, I'm here to fight. I'm here to make right because all these people claim to worship the ground I walked on, and now they all turned their back on me. Um, it's a lot of these other people's fault that I was killed. So anyway, he takes hostages, says he wants justice, and him and Kyoshi talk, and they kind of get into some fights. Which honestly, the fights for me were kind of hard to follow a little bit. Maybe because Kyoshi wasn't doing that much bending, but was saying that she was doing things instead of bending because she wasn't in that killer instinct mode. Um, yeah, so he takes those hostages. He ends up finding Liu Beifong. Oh, so he tells Kyoshi, "Hey, I'm gonna kill the people responsible for why I'm here." And Kyoshi immediately thinks about Heiron because Heiron trained him and everything. But she actually beats him to Heiron, but he finds Liu Beifong and kills him instead.
In just like a back hallway along the way to Heiron, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Um, yeah, I don't have that. Oh, to me, it's yeah. So he says, "I want justice. Everyone who lied to me is going to suffer the consequences." Um, that was pretty much. Weirdly enough, that chapter was a little boring to me, even though it's a very like it's weird, right? Like Yoon takes hostages and he's kind of fighting Kyoshi, but that was
Just
less entertaining to me than the whole dinner party
I would say just nothing,
scene.
nothing came of it. And even when they get to Heiron first, and they're waiting for this cool battle where like he's on the offensive against Heiron, and Kyoshi's like trying to spare everybody's life. And then I don't want to say it's a letdown, but it's not like a great twist that she ends up just killing Liu Beifong. She's like, whatever, he was a jerk anyways.
Yeah. So he an earthbend, and he also like I feel like he earthbends these like sharpnels. Oh, he destroys the Avatar paintings,
All the big
and
tapestries, yeah.
yeah, and then he I feel like he like grabs them all in a ball. I feel like it's the way to describe it. He hits it against the ground, and then like sharpnels come out, and like it pierces several dozen, maybe a couple dozen people. Also Kyoshi, but she guards herself beforehand, and he leaves, but she has to like try to save all these people. Then Ottawat comes in and she saves a lot of people. And pretty much, I feel like this part is to show just how powerful of a bender Ottawat is. Like Ottawa can lower the temperature of a person and prevent them or slow them down from dying, so much so that you can get them better care somewhere else. But she says it's a really difficult technique. She says it slows every process of the body down, including death. But if I don't stop at the exact right time, his fluids will turn to ice and destroy his own organs from the inside out.
She's like doing cryogenesis before cryogenesis is a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of dig it.
Interesting.
All right. Don't mind me. I'm going to scrape this spider off my wall because I don't like spiders.
As we mentioned before.
Yeah, big fear of mine.
Yeah, so essentially Kyoshi is like, can you teach me this technique? Saving lives, pulling people back from the brink of death. There was no worthier use of bending, in her opinion.
But
Which I
then
think
she
that's really
also
cool.
she was like picking people. She's like, can't save that guy.
Yeah,
Gotta
she
make
was.
these split second decisions. And I know that's really like I get the emotional turmoil, but I love that because you can't like let's split second decisions to get as many of these lives as possible. And that's like I don't
Yeah,
know that's the epitome of badass because she's got to like live with that and got to be that confident in her abilities and her understanding to make those choices that are at heart amazing, really good choices, even if it sounds kind of awful sometimes.
yeah. Um, and then so Master Atwa pretty much says like, yeah, sure, I'll train you. Um, but it's it's difficult, I guess. But she's willing to train Kyoshi, which I feel like so between uh Lauga, that's how you say his name. We were saying Lauji before, that
Oh,
assassin guy.
I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, it's GE. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
and I say GIF, so I guess it makes sense. Lauga instead of GIF. I say GIF, so I guess I don't know.
I mean, I feel like everyone says GIF. I think you're
No,
supposed to say.
the guy who invented the file
I
type
know.
says GIF.
I know the guy says it as GIF, but
There's a loyal contingent, as loyal as Avatar versus Kyoshi on the two sides. It's a big deal.
thing is, it doesn't
Graphic
make.
graphic is the first word of that acronym. It's GIF.
This guy must really like giraffes. 'Cause I can't think of another word that starts with G that makes
Yeah,
the J sound.
George. That's a name I don't even count. But
Mm.
okay, Lauga though I can
Yeah,
Lauga.
like
Okay,
yes. Um, but so I feel like between 'cause Lauga was like I don't know 500 years old or something like that. He used earthbending techniques to keep the
literally, yeah, like
cells
piece
from like
himself together the parts that were breaking and falling apart is wild.
yeah. But I feel like between learning that technique from him and then learning techniques from Master Atuwat, like Kyoshi can extend her life to way easier, right? Like if she can heal herself to be like, oh boom, I'll live another 10
Yeah,
years.
like that 230 or whatever she hits is like to us now. No surprise, we see it.
Yeah, exactly. Um, oh, sorry. Can you hear my baby crying in the background?
I can. That's it's a family podcast.
Yeah,
Sometimes you get a
being a
barky
terrible
dog, sometimes you
father.
get a crying baby.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that's pretty well the end of the crash,
Oh,
right?
yeah. So pretty much, Kyoshi talks to, um, she goes to the Fire Lord's chamber because he wants to talk to her, but he's like really distraught. He can't keep anything together, and Chajin is right there. Chajin's like, "Sweet Giorgio, go away. We'll handle this." And he goes away, and Kyoshi's like, "I really needed Chajin. I really need Zoryu to be like way stronger than this." But then she kind of manipulates Chajin to admit that he wants the throne, and pretty much she has in her head like she has Lauga speaking in her head like you know what to do about people like this. You just kill them. That's what you do. Um, like and she feels like Kyoshi she's dealing with how to be the avatar and all aspects of that, right? She can't talk to her past lives. Um, she doesn't know exactly what to do. Should she be able to kill people, stuff like that. So it says Kyoshi hears Lauga's talking to her. Like she can just hear his voice. You know what to do with such men, crackled Lauga. It upset her to no end that she could imagine his whispers better than she could hear the voices of her previous lives. And then, she has the same issue with Jianju. Like she finds herself being like Jianju sometimes. Like she can easily hear these people's voices more in the past lives, but she's supposed to be able to hear.
And in her defense, she spent a lot more time with him than Kuruk. I get it.
Yeah. Um. Oh man, we've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes now.
And
Oh,
I don't even know if we're
okay.
halfway done.
We're not.
Yeah.
I'll try to go a little bit
We might
faster
have to
here.
concise a little bit, I suppose. Yeah.
All right. So next chapter is wait, where'd you go? Performance headmistress. Oh, you have it
Aftermath.
up there. Aftermath G unit. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, that's the
And
Interscope
you
Breakers.
actually you just sort of covered this one. The notes we have are the water bending techniques to lower the body temperature, and Kiyoshi talking about to Chajin about being the Fire Lord. Um, so you actually just kind of covered this one. That was all aftermath. They
Oh yeah, yeah.
they
My bad.
they just I'm glad you took notes because for me it just all blends together. I would have had to reread it and take notes while I was reading. So let's go one more. Let's go to the ritual.
Yes, the ritual. Okay, so in the ritual, Heiron, they all have plans. They're like, all right, Yoon has been possessed by Father Glowworm. Kyoshi knew that Jianju knew Father Glowworm through a quirk, and they're like, listen, well, you got to go talk to Quirk. And they have this plan for them to go meet up with one of his uh, one of his past friends that Quirk knew, who was a very spiritual guy. And one thing I like, so they talk about it, and one thing, this is like an insecurity of Kyoshi that she can't talk to her past lives as the Avatar, and then she pretty much tells everybody that, hey, I can't talk to my past lives. And Heiron says, communing with their past lives is one of the most difficult and complex feats an Avatar can perform. Successful methods and experiences have been known to vary between generations. I wouldn't advertise your problem, but I wouldn't beat yourself up about it either. So I found it to be really interesting.
That's
Like,
solid advice.
well, I find it to be interesting because the thing I take away from that is that I think Aang was really spiritual to be able to talk to his past lives, right? Like we never even see Korra talk to her past lives except for Aang one time, and Kyoshi isn't like the greatest at it either. Also, I get the sense that some avatars don't talk to their past lives, or maybe they never talk to their past lives. And to me, that creates this 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 different, like, there's this game of telephone, right? Like avatar of avatar is supposed to tell you like what to do, but eventually one person just like, oh, I didn't get the memo. like I think you just kind of get lost in the shuffle where you start off with Juan and you end up with Roku being like, the four nations must be four separate nations. That's the way it has to be.
Well,
It's like, what the heck?
can you imagine being like Zeto, like talking to his previous lives, and he's like, "What do you think I should do?" Because I'm thinking about taking this job, and the Avatar before him being like, "What?" Avatar Zeto be like, "All right, I'm gonna go be this accountant," and his past lives be like, "No, that's what. Why would you do that?" He's like, "No, it's gonna be fine. Just watch." And then Yang Chen talking to him like, "What would you do?" And he'd be like, "I personally would do menial labor. Try to make a decent wage, and good luck."
yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna
And,
it.
and Yang Chen is like, we don't have jobs. I grew up in the area,
I
nomads. Like,
this ain't gonna work. So yeah, absolutely. And
what is
just a reminder
and
that the
Yang Chen
Avatar
is like,
cycle
what is
itself
money?
is make a decent pardon.
Imagine, imagine Zeto like just like, listen, Yang Chen, you got when you turn 16, you got to get a job. You got to get paid. Yang Chen's like, what? I don't need stuff. We don't. don't value possessions like
You got to
this.
move into your
We
own
don't. I don't need
place.
money.
Hold on, move into what?
Uh,
You mean like I got to go to a different air temple, or what are you talking about?
yeah.
Yeah, just a reminder that like even the avatar state itself isn't supposed to like resemble this perfect practice. Not just the human element, but even the spiritual element. A great reminder.
Um, okay, so they have a plan to find Crook's old friend. One interesting tidbit in this chapter is that they talk about what year they're in Kyoshi's avatar hood. They like mention like, oh, we're in day. Where is it at? Oh, so Rangi is talking to Kyoshi about like, I wish I could have given you a better avatar hood. Like so many things are wrong. Like it shouldn't be like this. It's like, did you know it's technically the 6,444th day of the era of Kyoshi? That's how they take time. It's an old way of taking time. And so I did the math on that. And so because if you think, all right, it's been 6,454 days, and Kyoshi's 18 years old, you can back into how many days are in a year. It's pretty close to ours. It's like 362 or something like that.
So their
Which,
planet
well, actually,
shares
yeah,
similarities with Earth.
yeah. Just which before I didn't know these things, right?
No,
Because
I'm kidding.
Earth is also Earth is not like Earth. Because if you look at an episode of Korra, like harmonic convergence, the planets are lined up. The third planet from the sun has rings. Our planet Earth does not have rings. The Earth of Avatar does not have rings, so it is not the third planet from the Earth. Maybe it's the fourth planet, but it's definitely not Earth.
And everybody knows, judging based on the map, Chris, that the Avatar universe is flat. Obviously,
That's true.
it's right there
Oh,
on the map.
yeah.
It's right there. No, it's kind of cool to have that sort of confirmation. I would
It
have
will be
just
interesting.
assumed it was, but
I wonder when did they get over flat earthers? Like, when did they discover that the world was round? I
I
mean, granted, I think didn't the Mayans know that a long time ago before?
I think they had it pegged. Did we just we tend to align our this person invented this and that is usually based on European discovery of such things. So no, I think they
Yeah.
had it pegged. I want that would be funny to like read through that part of the history of the Avatar universe too. Like this lion turtle is all that exists, and then they get off the lion turtle like, oh shit.
Also, I want to note, at one point, Rangi really hates the plan to go meet up this old guy. She gets really mad at her mother, and she throws a table off of a balcony in the Fire Nation, like she could have killed somebody. And Rangi, I feel like, is uncharacteristically um, um, not as level as she usually is. She's kind of more emotional in this story. But anyway, so Kyoshi and Rangi are having a nice little moment together. And Kyoshi says, I no longer hold the title for worst breach of manners in the Four Nations, Kyoshi said. And I am never ever going to let you forget it. And then Rangi reached over and took her hand. Red scars traveled down Kyoshi's wrists in wavy, branching patterns, like the veins of palm frond, a token from when she'd felt the lightning. And Rangi says, For as long as you live. Kyoshi smiled and nodded, For as long as I live. So it was one of those moments of them being like, promise that we'll always be together.
Stinking cute.
Um, and then Heron cuts hair from the Fire Lord, pretty much saying that she drops all of her honor and everything. So then they all plan to travel to go meet the Fire Sage. And then,
That the hair cutting being the ritual to which the chapter title alludes. But also like
oh, yeah, I'm
strategic.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not that chapter title. I just didn't give you the right notes. That was just one of my. um, it's part of the Fire Sage. Oh wait, it's part of the ritual. The next chapter, the Fire Sage. So really in this one, they just go to a carnival where they can meet. I think his name is Nayahita.
This is another one I didn't even try to pronounce, but that sounds good. I'm gonna go with what you said. United Front. We can do this. Nyaita.
Um,
Nyaita. One of those.
Na- okay, Nayahita is this old guy who was friends with Korik, who Heiron does not like. They don't like each other at all. Um, oh wait, I want to get to this one moment here. That's another cute Rangi Kyoshi moment. Um, because Rangi and her mother has been arguing, and Kyoshi is kind of there just to listen to Rangi complain about it. It says, um, so Kyoshi asks her, "How did you manage going to the North Pole together?" Rangi says, "She was comatose." Having her constantly in my ear on a mission with the Avatar, no less, is a completely different story. And then Kyoshi, the narration says, it wasn't the reaction Rangi was looking for, but Kyoshi swelled with a sudden happiness. She couldn't help it. Rangi, acting so completely, utterly normal, tugged on a rope connected directly to her heart. It always would. On a whim, she picked up Rangi up by the waist and whirled her around. No one was there to scold them for inappropriate touching. Rangi laughed despite herself and tried to swat at her, but couldn't reach as far. Stop it, you're embarrassing me. That's the point, Kyoshi says.
It's like a
So,
little high
uh,
school puppy love going on there.
yeah. No,
Adorable.
I just like this, this Kyoshi is so different, but still the same Kyoshi we know from that we know from the show. Um, yeah, so they go to this carnival, and at the carnival, there are pretty much people on the side of Zoryu. There's people on the side of that show up on the side of Chajin. His mother, Hazu, shows up, and her and Heiron meet together. She makes fun. Um, Hazu makes fun of Heiron. She even she knows that her hair is cut, so she's been dishonored, and she pats her on the head like a pet. And Heiron has to pretty much accept it because honor.
Because shitty arbitrary rules. No offense,
Yeah,
Fire
yeah,
Nation. If
exactly.
you identify, like when you think about what nation you would belong to as Avatar, I apologize, but I would be a poor Fire Nation fit, very poor.
Yeah. Really, I feel like this chapter is really just a setup tensions at
Yeah,
that carnival
absolutely.
for later on.
Exposition and meeting that fire sage himself and understanding both his role and the reason that there would be tension between him and Team Avatar.
Yeah. So they finally meet the guy. Heiron says, Korg's reincarnation needs your help. And she gestures to Kyoshi. Narration says that was Kyoshi's least favorite way for people to refer to her avatar as Kirk's reincarnation. Because to me, that makes it seem like I'm not even a person to you. I'm just someone else. That's all you see.
It's like being introduced by someone who's like, "Oh, you're such and such's brother," and you're like, "Yeah, fine."
Yeah. Or like a famous celebrity has a most of the time this probably happens to women, unfortunately. Has a
Yeah,
wife who's like a really world-renowned scientist or something. It's like Matt Damon's wife discovers the cure for AIDS. It's like, no, she has a name.
and you can say it, and it's pretty cool. Maybe more important than Matt Damon, with all due respect.
Yeah. How about leading scientist discovers something?
There we go.
That was just an sample. I'm sorry. I don't think there's a cure to AIDS.
How
Yeah,
about
but
how about body found? There's got to be at least one John Mulaney joke in every episode.
uh, yeah. Anyway, Niyahata explains that Kurik um, battled many spirits, dark spirits, and stuff. They don't really explain why in this chapter. Um, yeah, Heiron. Pretty much, you just get a sense of Heiron and this guy don't like each other.
That Team Avatar and
So
this
that's pretty
guy
much
sort of blame each
to me. That
other
was the most.
for Kuruk's uh, lack of success.
Yeah. All right. So next chapter, spiritual exercise. So pretty much in this chapter, Kyoshi goes with Nihata on a spiritual journey, really, an exercise so she can connect with Quirk finally. And them two, and he realizes like them two are just so much alike, like the way that they're so abrasive, the way that they idolize Yang Chen. Um, and yeah, there comes to be a point where um, he tells Kyoshi that because she's just like, hey, why don't you just have me talk to Yang Chen instead? He's like, that's not how it works. You have to connect to the one right before you in order to connect to the ones um, before them. Like it's a chain. You can't skip them. And it makes Kyoshi mad. Kyoshi's like, great. So on top of everything else, Quirk's a wall keeping me from my full potential. He's like, he's not a. I swear, I would have known you were his reincarnation from the start and saved the Earth Kingdom a lot of trouble had they just brought you before me. You two are exactly alike. Both idolize Yang Chen to a fault. He pretty much says, mark my words, you're going to botch up someday bad because your personal feelings, just like he did, because of your personal feelings, just like he did. Um,
Is this
and
also
so,
is this also the chapter where he says like she wouldn't be as much help as you think, or like Kuruk was not a
yes,
wall and Yang Chen wouldn't be as much help as you think? Then my heart's
yeah,
beating all fast because got this reputation to keep where we
yeah,
called Yang Chen the best avatar of all time, and now my heart's beating. It's like, oh my god, we're gonna have to redo that video. It's broken. It's
yeah,
over.
just
It's bad.
yeah, just that small little sentence there. It just piques your interest. Like, what does it mean Yang Chen can't help? And even Kelsey's like, Yang Chen would help a lot. You know, she was wise and she was great.
And we know like it still would have been entirely possible, even with the teaser laid in the last book, for the plot of this book to have still just played into correct being a douchebag. And for as far as we've gotten here in our discussion, it's still possible, but it's like right here where you finally like some real tangible something of like, no, it's maybe not as bad as you think.
Yeah. All right. So they. Oh, I really love this metaphor here about the Avatar. It says he lights a flame. It's like focus on this flame. He says he's trying to guide her through this meditation. It says it is one flame and it is many. It changes every moment. No avatar is ever the same person. You and the flame change with every moment, every generation. You are one flame and you are many. I was like, man, that's a really good metaphor for like because like yeah, it is one person, but yeah, the a fire changes every with every gust of wind, with every oxygen burned, like it changes. Like Earth doesn't do that.
Hashtag deep.
Yeah.
No, that's a great metaphor.
All right. So then next chapter, the message. Pretty much this is all about Kuruk's past. Um, it just talks about how he met Jianju, how he met not Jin, but how he met Kelsang. Oh yeah, and it's Kelsang, not Kelsang.
Okay. Yeah, that
But
makes
I feel like
that's
if
like a May Mai situation, like
yeah.
Aang but Kelsang. Are
Well then,
you the Avatar, Ong?
but I feel like because there's two A's there, the Aang part makes more sense.
It.
I don't know if that's right,
I'll probably
but
say,
that's how.
what if this? What if the guy paid to read the audiobooks? Like, what if they don't talk about that stuff and he's just on his own? Maybe that guy is wrong. Because I'm saying that because I'm probably gonna say Kelsang, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not important.
I like saying Kelsang, right? Because it goes with
It
because
does. Aang,
It's not Yang Chen, it's Yang
Yang
Chen.
Chin,
Although I haven't
and
gotten to the point of reading. No, I did.
just
They
like
said
it's
Yang Chen.
just like
They say
it's
Yang Chen.
yeah, I say Yang Chin for sure.
Yeah.
Just like
Well,
it's
even in the
Mai and
audiobook.
not May and Lake Lao Guy and
Yeah. Yeah. It's like because even in the audiobook they say Yang Chen
yeah. So
instead of Yang
Kelsang,
Chen. But anyway.
I'm not buying. Since Kelsang is based off that real life, is was it Kelsang Gyatso? The real
No, that's
life.
Tenzin Gyatso is the
Uh,
Dalai Lama.
but Kelsang was based on somebody real, also. So maybe we should just
Oh
learn how to
yeah.
pronounce
Yeah,
that guy's.
yeah,
Okay, you keep going. I'm gonna look for a pronunciation of that guy's name, and we'll just see if the audiobook guy is wrong.
yeah. Pretty much this chapter is just a, a like flashback to Korik's life and his upbringing with all his masters, and you're seeing it through Kyoshi's eyes. But Kyoshi doesn't. She's kind of like, this is useless, and she doesn't want to see it either because she's like mad. She's like, I wish Kyo-sang would see Jianju for who he was. That one day he'll kill his friend, and how could Quirk like befriend all these people? Quirk like loved his friends. Like I love this passage where it says like his friends, he loved them so much. Life was good. It was simply good, and the world was a wonderful place. Like that's some good deep friendship there, which makes it all feel even worse knowing how it ends with Quirk dying at 33, with Jianju killing Kelsang, with Kyoshi killing Jianju, with Heiran almost being killed herself.
Like it would have been like watching at the time watching Community or something, and then like one of them turns violently murderous.
Yeah. All right. So that is
For the record, it is Kelsang. It is Kelsang Gyatso, but it's just with one A. But it's Kelsang.
well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, audiobook guy, but I'm taking the internet side this time. I'm still really grateful
That's pretty much
that
it.
you got to hear pronunciation.
Yeah. I actually bought those audiobooks. I put in more money into this than I needed because yeah, if you want to, if you're like in the United States and your library has a partnership with Hoopla, the app, which is an amazing app, I highly recommend it. It has like thousands of comics, even recent comics to read, and books and audiobooks. You have Rise of Kyoshi and Shadow of Kyoshi on there. Not the audiobooks, but the digital books. I had to buy the audiobooks,
Yeah, I mean, I probably will
which
at
is
some
like,
point too, just to support support the series that I hope continues to live on in other ways.
all right, next chapter, real quick. It's another flashback to Yoon and Father Glowworm. They've been fighting for like, well, it's probably been days because he can still earthbend in the spirit world. And like the spirit is kind of like how Latu, like if you beat part of him, some of him comes off, he kind of becomes smaller. So he's been becoming smaller, and then uh, pretty much the spirit is like, hey, let's make a deal. Like, let's fuse together, and I can get you back into the real world. And then Yuna's like, deal. But then he tricks him, and he weakens the spirit even more. And then it ends with Yun just eating the spirit Father Glowworm.
And they describe it like taking a drug. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna pop this little spirit pill right here, anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Um, at the end of the chapter before that, Kyoshi like wakes up out of the spirit world or the vision that she got, and even Niyahata is like, you were like, he was amazed at her spiritual prowess. Anyway, to get out of that, so resignation starts with the side of this whole like mountainside saying like long live or long reign Fire Lord Chajin, which if all the people down in town are going to see that, that's like a sign, a declaration of war.
Straight from the spirits too. I mean, it's like in the
Exactly,
it's
and
in the
that's the thing.
crops.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so then you get the feeling that you kind of get the sense in Kyoshi. I think it's starting to kind of get the sense that Yoon is working with Chajin. Um, and so they go back to this whole village thing, and fights break out between people who support Zoryu and people who support Chajin. There's a pretty cool. Uh, oh, this is where Yoon fights Heiron, and
Are we in survival or are we in resignation now? Chapter wise,
Resignation.
we're in resignation now. So the message at the very end
Yes.
of the message, they saw the message in the crops, and then the survival
The
was
message.
the literal message. Yeah, it makes sense actually.
Yeah.
And then the survival, Yoon eats the spirit, Father Glowworm,
Yes.
and now we're in resignation. All these fights are breaking out. There's lots of tension, and if I may jump ahead a little bit here, one of the most infuriating moments in the book, in a good way, not like infuriating at the writing, infuriating like my relationship with the characters.
Oh, what's that?
Oh, when so Yoon and Heiron fight, and then is this the? I might be getting it mixed up, and I hope I'm not. But isn't it at some point prior to this? Hadn't they had a talk where Heiron and Kyoshi were discussing
Yes.
if
Yep.
if you have to make a choice, you leave me to die and you go catch Yoon, and then that exact thing
Yes.
happens,
And
and
even
like
using me as bait.
yeah, like literal bait. Like you just she gets it. She's just an old lady. Like it's not a big deal. She's had a good life. She's dishonored. Like this was our whole purpose of coming, and being dishonored is kind of what made it okay. It made it freeing. It was brilliant. Like they had, and then Kyoshi just like didn't. And I was as mad, easily as mad as I was at Zuko in the Crossroads of Destiny. I was easily that.
Oh, mad at Kyoshi?
Yeah, like
I wasn't mad at Kyoshi.
I was super pissed. They had an agreement, and it was fine. It was gonna work. This is part of being an Avatar, like making the split second choices that Atuat had sort of hinted at, and foreshadowed at previously. And I was like, Kyoshi, you right, you did it. It's how it was supposed to go, and you screwed it up because you're stupid. I was really pissed.
Yeah, so Kyoshi walks in on Heiron and Yoon playing Paisho, which it kind of annoys Kyoshi because he's like, this is another one of those things that as an Avatar I should probably be able to play because it's a game that's played by all four nations, but I don't. And Yoon was so good at it, and Korok was also good at it, and it makes her feel more like a failure also.
Okay,
Yes,
so
so
Yoon had just declared victory in 17 moves, I believe.
yeah, which is really interesting. Just because the whole he's great at he, he he has so many strengths that Kyoshi doesn't have, right? And then they all just get flaunted in Kyoshi's face all the time. And then pretty much he then moves to kill Heiron. And he like stabs her in the neck with a similar move that I feel like Jianju used on Kelsang. Um, and then um, yeah, pretty much he kills her in that, or he's about to kill her essentially.
It's like she was
So
kind of
also,
able to pull away from it just enough to avoid like an instant death. Was kind of how I read it.
yeah. Real quick note: I'm sorry, Rangi got in a fight with one of her old classmates. Which when they introduce each other, like in a couple chapters before that, like they're really nice to each other. Like Rangi's really happy to see her.
Like to the
I
point of
thought
making
for a minute,
Kyoshi jealous.
yes, I thought that was gonna be like Rangi's first love interest. It was gonna be a plot point
I thought it was going to be a
making Kyoshi.
way bigger deal than it turned out to be.
Turned to be that her and that lady, her and that woman or student, student,
Former
are like
student, yeah,
right,
former classmate.
yeah, are rivals of each other. And then anyway, in this fight breaking out, Heiron, I'm sorry, that student, that little classmate makes fun of Rangi's mother, Heiron, and then Rangi takes it really personal and fights her, pretty much beats the crap out of her
Yeah,
to a point that it's just so out of character for Rangi to do like these emotional things. Even Kyoshi has to snap. Kyoshi, of all people, has to snap Rangi out of it.
yeah. No accidental Agni Kai deaths here.
Yeah. So anyway, moves right into weakness, where um, where Yoon is trying to kill Heiron, and Heiron ends up fire blasting him. Even though she couldn't like firebend that well before, so he has to leave because he got hurt really badly.
Yeah, she got his arm really good. I also want to point out really quick, just as a reminder, that Paisho, obviously prevalent throughout the series, but just to remind you that one of the reasons they thought Yoon was the Avatar is because he had employed like the exact same strategy as Kuruk, which to them was like, oh, see, that's the spirit being channeled through. But in reality, if they're both really good Paisho players, then
Yeah.
maybe that's just really good Paisho strategy. In hindsight, is 2020. But anyway, that's
Okay.
the
Real
symbolism
quick,
of playing the Paisho there.
real quickly, I had a random thought today about how in the episode Avatar Day, Aang has to answer for the crimes of his past life, Kyoshi. And I got to think like that's unfair. Like only Aang you can prove the past lives that he had him to. Like everyone else has past lives, according to I think Avatar lore. It's just you can't prove it. But Aang, you can clearly prove it. So he has to answer for his past lives. And then I started thinking of like, like eventually, um, like what if that happened in the real world? Like you have to answer. Like everyone has past lives. It's like, well, hey, you got to answer for your past lives. So how do you prove it? To me, the way you prove it is social security cards. Because we all know, like, right, like your soul gets a social security number, and, we can all remember our social security card like more than our own phone numbers, and it's very unique to us. So like, you just line kids up, and you just say, "Hey, write the first 10 numbers that come to mind,"
Nine.
and you write them down. Nine,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Write the first 9 numbers that come to mind, and then you trace it back. Oh, you were this person. Okay, you're gonna have to spend a couple of years in jail. Um, yeah. Or hey, would you like to go meet your old family? And like it'll be weirdly interesting. Oh, someone should write
Oh,
a
your ancestor was Nikola Tesla. Congratulations. It's a good one. Yeah, everybody wants
yeah.
that.
You automatically get
You
get some shares.
you win. Yeah, you've done it.
Um, but anyway, back to the story.
No,
So
yeah,
uh,
get them all to write down a favorite number. I dig it.
Yoon gets away. Heiron is still alive. Kyoshi like clings her to life for Ottawa to get there and save her. And so Ottawa is saving Heiron. At the same time, Rangi is in there. And then Ottawa comes out. She says, "She's absolutely livid with you." The doctor said to Kyoshi. And Kyoshi says, "Which one?" She says, "Both." And
And
Rangi just goes off.
I'm livid with you too, Kyoshi. What were you thinking?
Um, Rangi gets so mad at Kyoshi because pretty much Kyoshi uses she in her head Kyoshi used her mother as bait, and of course Heiron's mad at her, but Heiron's not necessarily all that mad at her, but Rangi is just fuming with it.
I mean, Heiron's a little
Because
unhappy,
Kyoshi
that
didn't tell her.
she like almost died as part of this strategy, and then Demi just let you get away.
Yeah. So Kyoshi says, "Rangi, please, I'm sorry. Don't apologize to me." Rangi said, "There's no need because from this point on, I am nothing to you. Do you hear me, Avatar Kyoshi? Nothing." And then Kyoshi's just like beaten down. Like she called me Avatar Kyoshi. Everything's so normal. Like it says that Kyoshi's body begins to heave. She took great gulps, her insides twisting, and she just like she can't handle like this is Rangi breaking up with her. And she can't handle Rangi not being in her life. She's like, who am I without Rangi? Like, it's such a sad moment. Like she's just so down on this breakup.
And well, it's not just the break. Like she knows she screwed up in both regards.
And it says there was a precise little flick against Kyoshi's forehead. Something white and powdery fell to the floor. Also, so Heiron got like stabbed in her neck. She can't talk anymore, so she's using chalk to talk. So she like signs. She writes really quickly to Kyoshi, "Stop panicking. She's not leaving you." Kyoshi, but she said, Kyoshi was a blubbering mess, a wreck threatening to spill its contents into the sea. Heiron rolled her eyes. Like this is just a great mother daughter-in-law moment. Um, and she says, Heiron says, she says a lot of things. Yes, she's angry with you. It doesn't mean she'll walk away forever. Um, Kyoshi, how do you know? Rub, scrape. Like it's just her like erasing the whiteboard. She's my daughter. You think you know her so well? I've known her since she was born. Eventually, she'll come back with some sign that she still cares. Yoshi wiped her face, sniffling like a little child. I just imagine this like 7 foot woman who's the most powerful person, just like, but she's gonna
Just
leave
getting
me.
those buggies on her hand. Just
Yeah, Like, and also she has bigger things to worry about, but to Kyoshi, this is the biggest thing. Um, like what if Heiron was wrong? Um, anyway, they they then come up with the thought that Yoon has been working with Chajin.
Hey, isn't this the part where she gives a little family speech though? The little
Um,
she's my
yes,
family
yes,
and she
yeah,
loves you,
yeah,
so you're my family. This
yes. I'm
is
gonna get to it.
yeah. Oh, I thought it was already here.
I don't know.
Not yet. I jumped the shark.
Yes. So, all right. Uh, so they talk about it. So I'll just read this whole passage, which is I just highlighted, make a lot of highlights in the book. I just highlighted like this whole thing because it's the whole passage that's one of my favorite moments in the book. Anyway, um, so Kyoshi turns to leave, but her path was blocked by Rangi, storming back into the room. Rangi glowered viciously at Kyoshi and pushed a steaming hot bowl into her hands. It was filled with plain yellow noodles. You haven't eaten since yesterday afternoon, she screamed. She hurled a pair of chopsticks on the floor and left as abruptly as she entered. Kyoshi stared at the bowl. There hadn't been any fuel in the kitchen, which meant Rangi must have cooked it with her own firebending. She looked up to see Heiron with an expression that almost crossed the line into smugness. See, even faster than I thought. You mean everything to her, Kyoshi. She was running her chalk down to the numb. My daughter loves you, which means you are also my daughter. For better or worse, you are a part of our family. Heiron smiled. Now go on before your food gets cold. You need your strength. Kyoshi bent her trembling knees and picked up the chopsticks, not caring they'd been on the floor. The noodles were unflavored, oiled from dry, and so overly alkaline they still smelled of lye. They were the best thing she'd ever tasted. Tears ran down Kyoshi's face as she ate her meal. Heiron watching to make sure she finished. She's like, oh, yeah,
Can't take
good
it.
writing there.
Can't take it. Gotta go hug my wife.
Uh,
I'll be right back.
yeah, and to me, that's one of the things I most love about this book is Heiron and Kyoshi opening up to each other.
Yeah.
That conversation before, Heiron was so obtuse and her talking to Kyoshi about them two being together that it was almost you don't realize that that's the conversation they were having. But this here is so like, listen, you are part of my family. I love Rangi. She loves you. I love you. Like, come on, it's really good.
Just I don't know. It's really cool in the Avatar universe to get to delve deeper into a great relationship.
Yeah. So then they get the plan. Kyoshi has a stupid plan to go kidnap Azu, the mother of Chachin. It's a dumb plan.
It's I would I don't know if I thought it was dumb, but it's certainly not what I would pick. It's pretty risky. Pretty, and this is a chapter is called escalation, right? Did we move to the next one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Escalation.
It is extremely risky, like all your chips on the table behind this one
Yeah.
idea in very careless fashion.
So Kyoshi's plan is pretty much just to interrogate the crap out of them, threaten them to the point of them admitting that they're working with Yoon, which will discredit them, which will credit the Fire Lord Resoryu. Anyway, so Kyoshi kidnaps Hazu, the mother of Chajin, and pretty much says, like, admit that you know Yoon. She's like, I don't know who that is besides seeing him at the party. Um, and what is this? Oh, I think it's my book rubbing up. Yeah, anyway, sorry. um, besides seeing him at that party, and then makes Kyoshi even more mad. Like, you know who Yoon is. So Kyoshi gets really mad. She she does this really cool water bending. Says she flung her water was calmness and tranquility, but it was the rage. So anyway, um, Kyoshi flung her energies at the ship. So she kidnapped Kazu, and I think they're on like shore. And there's a ship over nearby. The ropes mooring to the dock snapped like threads. A wave as wide as a river carried the boat out to sea, lifting it higher. Once it reached 100 yards out, Riptide Kyoshi created froze in a snap, leaving the ferry held in air by talons of ice. Kazu's men jumped back and shouted in astonishment. Um, and that's why it's there. And even she's like in awe of Kyoshi's power, and she wasn't even in Avatar state. Um, and that's why it says you've got enough raw power to freeze a polar oak orca solid. Um, so yeah, so that to me that was just a cool moment of Kyoshi showing off how powerful she is.
Just got to make sure Chajin's mama knows she's serious.
Yeah. Um, which hey hey Ron is talking to Kyoshi about this plan, and then she says Kyoshi says by doing this I'm ruining my honor. Yeah, hey Ron says only because you understand the true meaning and value of the word. Honor cannot be coveted too dearly, young lady. Sometimes it must be laid down for the good of others. So
About
I
time
think that
somebody
was a
else
good
gets
talk
it.
about. Um, so then moves on to the next chapter, the companion. I'm hungry. Azu said. If Kyoshi could keep only one lesson she learned in her 17 or so years of life, it was that your choice of traveling companions was the most important thing you could ever make. Yeah. Just the I'm hungry part I wanted to read.
That no, that's well. And at first, I actually thought you were just saying it because I forgot that was the opening line. I'm
I'm a
like,
little hungry. I got
yeah,
some
me too,
tacos.
actually.
Um, so in this, pretty much this chapter is just Hazu talking about how she was in love with Fire Lord before Zoryu, his father, and how um, and how kind of I don't know absent-minded I forgot his wife was because she like named Zoryu after a member or after something that Hazu should name people after of, and that was like disrespect. Also in this chapter, Jinpa is accompanying Kyoshi on this stupid mission, and she's kind of like they're having this conversation, and she's just kind of like you're kind of an anomaly, like you're an air nomad, but you haven't really questioned me all that much. Like I go around beating the crap out of people, I've killed people, and this plan I'm having is just so not an air nomad way. Like why aren't you saying more? Um, and he pretty much just says like I'm an air nomad, but I'm more than that. Like I belong to another community. He's alluding to being part of the White Lotus. And he said, yes, the senior members of the group agreed I should help you establish your avatar hood in whatever way I can. So he just kind of goes on. I just find that interesting about um, about Jinpa. This chapter, I think, makes him seem more interesting how he's dealing with being part of the White Lotus, but also being an air nomad, and how those two things aren't um, they come into conflict with each other.
And she made like a jibe earlier at Jinpa about this other group that he was part of, and so it's nice to like see that alluded to again. Like he kind of forgot about it for a while, and then
Yeah,
oh, wait, there's more.
yeah. So now on to chapter The Edge. Essentially, in this chapter, Kyoshi catches, um, she kidnaps Chajin, leader of the Salyan clan, and she just tries to interrogate the crap out of them. And he's kind of being smug about it, like, "Oh, Avatar, you've done so much good to me, like because of your stupidity. Like I have even more credibility to become the Fire Lord than I had before." And then Kyoshi pretty much I forget how she threatens them exactly. I imagine they're like on a cliffside. She's like about to earthbend them to their death.
I had
And
a hard time visualizing it, but yeah, there's big old waves and rocks and things below, and it's on a
yeah,
cliff and threatening. She's doing the Batman thing, where the rest of the drugs.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Uh, um, yeah, and Jennifer's like, Kyoshi, you gotta stop. She's really about to kill these people. So much to the point that like Kurg has to intervene. Just says, Kyoshi, this isn't who you are. Says Chajin raised his tear-stained face and wailed in helplessness. And really, it's a time that Kyoshi. I think she comes to grips that she can't just be like going around just feeling out justice in her own way, because this clearly didn't work, and she doesn't want to become that person that threatens the lives of innocent people because they really weren't working with Yoon, and she realizes that.
But how gratifying just to hear him crying, right? Does that almost make it
Sure,
worthwhile?
sure,
Like, no, but
yeah.
close.
Honestly, honestly, I feel like if if he had become an Avatar, I mean, if he had become a Fire Lord, like Kyoshi would have him in his pocket, in her pocket, because I mean,
Remember
she
that
made
time
this
I
man
hugged you off a
cry.
cliff and you cried like a little bitch? Tell that story to everybody. I
Next
don't know.
chapter.
I can see Jinpa like chiming in like, hey, this is a little too far. But even then, I thought, oh, they just contrived this ahead of time, like good cop, bad cop style. Until Kuruk jumped in, I was like, oh, never mind. I wasn't playing that. Sorry, Jinpa.
Pretty much in this chapter, Shapes of Life and Death, uh, Zoryu calls a meeting and he pretty much lies that he's caught Yoon, and he just has this person take the place of Yoon. He's like, yeah, we're going to kill this person. And to me, that's really the most of that chapter. It's really not even that interesting to me, besides Kyoshi being like, this dude, like, I thought he was cool. Now he's lying, and now he's about to kill this innocent person.
And bribing him just by saying, hey, you let me kill you, I'll give your family money. Cool. And that guy's broke as hell, so he has to say yes. Um, the only thing I thought in this chapter was I kind of did a complete 180 at this point, and I was thinking, oh, maybe this whole thing was orchestrated by Zoryu, like everything
Yeah,
down
I
from
kind of thought that
the
too.
party
Yeah,
onward. And I was like, to the extent that I was really convinced.
yeah.
Um, uh, Probably, I think like next chapter already kind of clears it up, but I thought that was going to be a heck of a twist. That like he had orchestrated everything, like he knew
Yeah.
he was too soft, and this was his way of like establishing power.
I thought that would have been interesting
I
actually.
do too. I was really into that. I don't know what would I. Can we chalk that up for a what if video someday? Because I think that'd be a good one.
Okay.
But anyway, in the end, because it didn't work that way, and also because of the reasons you mentioned before, yeah, not the most interesting chapter. But know that he's essentially got a look-alike for you that he's going to sacrifice. He has that guy say, yeah, I did it. I was working with these groups, and then he's going to execute him, and that was going to solve most of the problem. He's going to execute him and lock up the Sawan.
Yeah. He says, "What do you care if a single peasant lives or dies?" So at one point, Kyoshi, in the next chapter, I'm just skipping the next chapter, shapes house cleaning.
Yeah, I'll go to
Kyoshi
that one
confronts
too.
Zoryu about his lies and stuff, and then because she was like, "You shouldn't kill this innocent man." He says, "What do you care if a single peasant lives or dies?" She says, "I care more for his life than I do yours right now. Let me make myself perfectly clear. You live on top of what I control. Your islands are surrounded by my waves. You fill your very lungs at my discretion. So if I hear any news about Yoon, quotation marks, being executed, you will truly learn what it's like when the spirits forsake you in the face of the elements." So I just love that thread.
Yeah, that is a tremendous little come to Jesus moment that he's
Yeah,
having right now.
like your little islands, I could just wipe them. Oh,
That's like mom threat level 5 right there. Is when you're in that much trouble. That's what that feels like. Breaking at my discretion.
yeah. So next chapter, second chances. This I feel like it's a really good chapter. It's another kind of dumb plan by Kyoshi, but it's a smarter dumb plan by Kyoshi.
It's better than they deserve to contrive at this point. Let's go that far.
So Kyoshi just employs like some fisherman or something. And she wants to go to the spot that Avatar Quirk like destroyed that used to be a special spot for Yang Chen. And she's pretty much just like, I'm gonna drown myself, and then maybe I can connect to Quirk that way. Not a
I
great.
I've had better ideas. I don't know.
Hmm.
You tried praying?
Um, And she just goes like just deep into this water. And she says, Quirk, get out of here now before I die, or I will cross over to the other side and come after you. There. It's just the next part of the chapter is like, kid, you can open your eyes. Like Quirk, he says kid a lot to Kyoshi, which I guess is like
13
even the
years his inferior. That's it. Like, come
yeah,
on.
yeah, like even Roku never called Aang kid. It's like maybe because Roku's like, this is my fault. Hey kid,
Maybe because
go
Aang
fix
is 112 or whatever. That's not a kid.
it. Hey, maybe.
In one sense, Aang is older than Roku.
Roku's like, hey, old people like us guys, and Aang is
Because
like, I'm 12.
that's what happened.
Um, yeah, so this might be one of my favorite chapters.
Yeah, it's
So
so reveal.
Kyoshi,
This is the chapter that is the most revealing of any in the book. Maybe not the best or most interesting, but the most revealing of Avatar lore.
yeah. Um, so the thing is, Korra, for all the redemption that Korra gets in this book, he still is also kind of dumbfounded in a lot of other ways.
He's still
Or
not. He is re ranked appropriately in our upcoming Avatar re rankings.
yeah, so he's talking to Kyoshi. He's like, I've been trying to get a hold of you for the longest time, but I needed your help to do it. And Avatar talking to their past lives requires true willingness from both sides. It says like his message to her, and like in the last book was need your help. He hadn't been asking for a favor from beyond the grave. He needed her help in order to communicate properly. Of all the of all the stupid, unclear ways for him to put it, like I need your help. Like
Just tell
no,
me to,
like
like, turn the phone on my side. Make it a little more
yeah,
clear.
like I need your help is so vague. Like it could be like the world's gonna end, not like hey, I got a bad connection. I need your
Like, can you call me from your side also, please? No, I was the same way. I was like, danger in the spirit world or something like
yeah.
that. Nope.
I feel stupid because I did like a predictions video for this book. Like, oh, Kirk say he needs your help. I wonder does he need help with like Hold the Face Stealer or like something else? And he just needed help talking.
We'll get to that, and it may not fall in this video, but the the lack of discussion of his wife and Co the Face Stealer in this book was kind of a down spot for me. But that might be a discussion for another day. Because I did too. I
Yeah.
thought that was going to be a big part of it. It turns out like half ish, right? Maybe a third. We were a third right.
Yeah. So they talk about Father Glowworm and Kirk says like, oh, dark spirits come out. Don't spirits don't really come near me because I've killed dark spirits. I used to hunt them. And then Kyoshi says like, "You are something else." Like it's just like the most infuriating way. Just like I can't believe you. You're hunting spirits. You're the Avatar. Come on. And he says it's not what you think. Yang Chen, and then he cuts himself off, which I love Korg for cutting himself off because he could have explained it all to her, but he still wants to uphold Yang Chen's
The
legacy.
good name of
Even
Ink. Yeah.
yeah.
But he could have easily like rolled into rationalization right there.
And then, okay, I love the dynamic between Kyoshi and Korg because before Kyoshi cuts him off, he says, Yang Chen, she says, don't you dare bring her into this. You're not worthy of her legacy. Your name belongs in the gutter with mine. Which is just like more so saying how both of them are very much alike. And then the narration reads, here she was in the middle of the most sacred act an avatar could perform, except she was Kyoshi and Kurg was Kurg. Had there had there ever been a worse duo in history? Disaster followed by catastrophe.
What a
Uh,
beautiful circle of verbiage.
yeah. And then Kyoshi rips into him like she says, I hate you. You had everything handed to you. Ancient gave her legacy to you and you squandered it. You left me a world full of nothing but suffering and misery. And that's to me that it's unfair for a lot of reasons, but for the most part, I think it's unfair because to to me, that's from her point of view, right? Like Jianzhu kept the Earth Nation in fairly good form. Like he brought a lot of order to it. Granted,
Yeah.
and by getting the nickname Gravedigger by killing thousands of people. Okay, now that I'm making I shouldn't be giving Jianzhu props here, but
No,
I
but
mean,
just the idea that I'm going to say generically it's unfair because every avatar has got stuff like there is you're the avatar because chaos exists in the world and that's why you're here in the first place. Like every avatar gets a shit hand dealt in some regard. That
yeah,
is why you are you. So, but she's overreacting like people do sometimes. So it's fine.
yeah. So next chapter is pretty much like it's just a straight into the next chapter. I almost feel like the same chapter. Lost friends, and this one Quirk is talking about. Kyoshi goes through the memories of Quirk just like she did before, but this time it's very pertinent. Um, it's about how he was with his four friends, but then he had like a vision of the spirit. He goes and he fights it. And this spirit, I believe, was Father Glowworm.
Yes.
Um, and he says, "Oh wait, no, different dark spirit.
No,
Sorry, it's
I thought
different
this
dark
were a
spirit because he
weakened Father
says,
Glowworm.
yeah, destroying the spirit had cost him a piece of his own somehow. So he didn't destroy. He never destroyed Father Glowworm. Um, so Kuruk would hunt dark spirits, and they don't say why in this chapter that they're dark. He has to hunt them and kill them. He doesn't know how to deal with them any other way. But it says destroying the spirit had cost him a piece of his own. Somehow he was bleeding inside, losing something more vital than blood. Vitality leaching away in a manner no healer could fix. He was cold. And then, he would lie to his friends, telling him that he was like tricked by a spirit or something. Um, and then,
And they're just
in a
like tricked
way,
by a spirit, am I right?
yeah. And at one point, a fine lady brings him a drink, and alcohol was the one thing that could like warm him up and also warming up with another person. So that was Kirk's life, killing dark spirits, which took off more of his life, and drinking and enjoying the company of some dead company in order to, I don't know, fill the void, I guess, or just make the
Yeah.
best out of a
After
bad situation.
after he had or thought he had like a true love thing with Heyron too, writing that poem, and they made that little nod earlier where Heyron was like, "No relationships at work," wink.
Yeah. Um, and then here's comes a part that I just really love because to me it's telling of Quirk. He's talking about his friends and how he loved them. Says he loved them so much. He loved their intelligence, their aspirations, their sheer nobility. They were simply good people. There was so much good this group could do for the world. That was why when the second spirit attack came, he went to face it alone. Um, he could never, ever make them suffer what he had, not in 1,000 lifetimes. Like he didn't tell them because he didn't want them endangering their own lives.
Because they
So
would have gone with him like any good friends would have done, or talked him
yeah,
out of it or something. But yeah, very. So we're starting to get this. We don't know the full story yet, and we're still mad because we still think, hey, correct, you know, pissed him off somehow by hunting him. Is probably what I was thinking. Like he made him mad by hunting him in the first place, or something like that. But you're starting to see some sense of honor in the dude.
yeah. And it says like the world went on, it had competent people looking after it. And I think, alludes back to what Kurg was saying to Aang, saying like the world solved its own problems. And I mean, he didn't tell Aang the whole story either.
I mean, the spirit world didn't solve its own problems, but the world did.
Exactly. It says Kurg was never one for meetings. He began to sleep through them, exhausted by the lingering pain and the wine he drank to dull it. So he just had a life like fighting dark spirits, knowing his life was going to end really soon, and drinking to dull the pain. This nights were spent coercing at parties and taverns, at contests of bidding prowess, trying to feel as human as possible, with as many different humans as possible. Which, get real quick, that
That's
I
pretty
wonder if
dirty.
the thing is, I wonder if the term humans is purposeful and not just women.
Maybe I I would say the way the previous sentence is wording, that's in regard to like all social aspects and not strictly romantic.
Good,
But
that's true.
yep. But that, I don't know, just how I read it. Hey, read
No,
it.
no, 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 no. I think you're right. I think
Read
it's
it how
valid.
you let your head cannon run wild.
That's true. Headcans would run wild all day. Can then now people be like, "Oh, who's shipping Quirk with Jianju?"
They were all four. They were just a big traveling. You know what? That's too far for this podcast, but you know what I mean.
Hmm.
Just all
Yeah.
four
So
of them.
then he finally comes across Father Glowworm. His full name, Father Glowworm, the World Borer, it within the whole. He finally found a spirit that would actually talk. And apparently, if a spirit has a name, that's that's the a very powerful, renowned spirit.
Yeah, because like if you have a farm, on the farm, you're not supposed to name the pets that you're gonna eat. So the ones that have names, it's like a sign of respect over the other pets. Same concept to me.
Yeah. Um, then what else? Oh, then he meets Father Glowworm. They fight, and they kind of do lasting damage to each other. And Korg is like, "Oh, that's a pretty good victory." He thinks Father Glowworm is weakened, that he won't really come and he'll stay out of the human world for at least a generation or two. And yeah, which it wasn't for Jianju, right? It wouldn't have been an issue. He would have
Fair,
just probably stayed
yeah.
to himself. Um,
But he had that opportunity to fuse up.
yeah. So here's one. I think here's one sentence just to sum up Korg. After the companions of his youth left his side, Korg had been alone, surrounded by a world that celebrated him, perhaps, but completely and utterly alone. And this is where this is the come to Jesus moment for these two hard-headed individuals. And Kyoshi finally says, "I'm glad I finally reached you, Avatar Korg." Like that is the most respectful thing she's ever said about him. Now I feel like
And it's
she,
not
she really
close.
understands him.
Yeah. So another
Um,
feels moment right there. This guy
yeah,
that we've hated, and now we've had to turn our opinion. All of us admit it. Everybody hate. I'm not talking to you specifically, Chris, but you listeners, you hated him too. You know it.
I mean, hey, yeah, I didn't hate him.
I
You know what?
I mean, as far as
I
one
just
can like
disrespected
hate
him.
fictional characters that are supposed to be good guys, and if
Yeah,
there's a capacity to hate that, then I did.
I just thought very little of him, like everyone else in the Avatar world.
That's fair. Very well spoken.
Anyway, Kyoshi wakes up and the sea captain saves her, even though she told him not to. And that ends that chapter. So next chapter, interlude, the man from the spirit world. So Yoon gets out and he goes to this like tavern or something, and he meets these people. And he
It's
realizes
you
like,
need to, or it's worth prefacing. I think this is like in the past, right? This is right after he
yes,
got done, before he killed Janju. Right after he got done fighting Father Glowworm and popping him like a bad pill. And this is his like
yes,
his sob story, kind of.
yeah, exactly, yeah. Pretty much, he I don't know, I feel like he finds out that he's been lost to the world, or the world's going on. Like this person like admires Avatar Yoon because he saved is one of the people that they saved off the boats that Takaka kidnapped. But he doesn't even recognize Yoon because Yoon doesn't look like himself. Anyway, Yoon kills a couple people.
To the extent that he like can't even get a drink of water. Like that's the big thing is like they respect you, but I
Yeah,
can't get a drink of water or something like that. So
exactly. Yeah,
it's a good sob story for what it's worth. But he's just building up this rationalization in his head for murder, essentially.
Yes. So with the help from Kyoshi, no, from Kura, Kyoshi realizes that um, Father Glowworm's spirit and Avatar Kuruk's spirit are somewhat intertwined. Like they've very good rivals and they can track each other. So then Kyoshi's able to track Yoon to their home, and that's where they just have a fight. Kyoshi goes back, Yoon is there. They talk. Um, Kyoshi kind of talks bad at him. Like I forget exactly what she
He's still
says,
kind of
but
forgiving of them and like of her and Rangi. Like I don't think he is
yeah,
sold on
I don't think he
killing
has
them at
any.
this point. And then she just pretty much like trashes him. Like, no, we're gonna fight now. And
Yeah. Um, yeah, so they fight. Kyoshi's kind of losing the fight. The fight's kind of hard to follow. I should really reread it.
I'm
Um,
glad you're saying this. It makes me feel better. I had a really hard time visualizing this fight, and maybe if I had a better like vision of the manner in my head from the previous book, but I didn't just reread the previous book, so
yeah,
I had a tough time following it.
and to me that's like maybe because it's so specifically action oriented. Like this brick goes here, this brick goes there. But like her fight with Zhu in the previous book was like Kyoshi lifts him up into the sky with the cyclone at her feet and just waves one hand and bushes turn to fire. Zhu then blows fire and breathes fire at her face, but she sucks it up and swallows it, and then she drops him from like it's I don't know, it's so much easier to
It's
kind of
a
visualize.
it's a better kind of detail in that first book. Where here I don't know. I kept just like picturing him causing havoc in the mansion in like the Jumanji movie. It's
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's yeah.
that's all I could put it as.
Um,
Like whatever, I'm reading words. It's havoc, but she's losing. You get that vibe. She's losing.
um, so like Yuna's kind of talking to her like, you don't have to be the Avatar. Like, look what they did to you. Like he says, um, like he says, see, this is what I'm talking about. They forced you to hide in this shell. They turned you from this gentle girl into a walking terror. Avatarhood is a curse. Look how it's made you treat me, your oldest, truest friend. And
He's kind of pulling at the chaotic neutral strings.
yeah. And the kid pretty much says, I have friends truer than you. And then out of nowhere comes Karima and Wong from that flying opera company. Because Kyoshi had a better plan this time.
It's, her plans get a little
Kyoshi had a plan
better
to,
each time.
yeah, a little better. Her plan is to track down Yoon and then get back up. Um, but no Lek. I'm kidding. Oh, Lek. I do
Oh,
miss Lek.
he had a good one book life.
Uh, so, so Karima, Wong, Rangi is there. Kyoshi, they're all fighting Yoon. He's really powerful. Like he's so powerful. He's like shifting the earth. He eventually kind of takes them out,
He
and he's
does,
kind of
and
just playing.
it's very upsetting or unsettling as a reader because you feel like them coming like that was the master plan, and you just kind of had it in your head that it was gonna work.
Yeah.
At least I did.
Eventually, Wong and Karima are completely taken out. Yoon is kind of just playing with Kyoshi and Rangi. He's so much more powerful than they are. And like there's this brick that's like white chalky brick, and he like throws it at them. And this is the point where I can easily kind of visualize it a lot better. He says the white powder from the bricks caked onto their features or their faces, and Rangi and Kyoshi looks at each other and they're like, "Oh, we know why we haven't been at our best because Kyoshi has been in makeup this whole time, and like we don't have on our faces, our true
Mm-hmm.
faces." And so like they use their faces already white. They use like blood from their lips to like paint themselves, which is really cool. Just to me, that visual I can way more easily picture. For some reason,
Yeah,
just like dust and everywhere. Rangi looks at Kyoshi. Kyoshi looks at Rangi. They don't say anything, but they know why. They know what they need to do.
you know how baller move it is to use your own blood as face paint in the middle of a fight. That has got to be. Oh, that is the boldest power move mid fight I can possibly think of. Is
Yeah.
this also the point where Jinpa comes up with Yin Yang
Oh yeah, Jinpa's there too, fighting as
and
well.
I fight?
I
Well,
knew I missed one.
kind of, but he's just kind of on rescue mission first. He's trying to pull him out of
Yes.
there when, or at least Karima and Wong. He's trying to get them out of there. I don't remember if he succeeds off the top of my head, but
Yeah. So there's one part of the fight that's really good. It's just Rangi and Kyoshi versus Yoon, and it says like Kyoshi makes a huge fireball, shoots it at Yoon, but it misses. But it says, but Rangi acted faster and better than them both. From her higher vantage point, she spun her arms in a circular, mimicking a waterbender, redirecting the flames Kyoshi had put out into the world. Kyoshi saw her fireball change course behind Yoon, like the orbit of a comet, and come around for a second pass. And it still says the raw power of the Avatar's fire, guided by the refined skill of the Avatar's firebending seafood in tandem. Maybe they'd done it. So like they finally got a good hit on Yoon. So to me, that's kind of referencing Iroh learning lightning redirection from waterbenders.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a really cool visual. I don't know how it actually
Yeah.
looked, but in my mind, it was very like Dragon Ball Z.
Yes. Yeah. Um, so then it says that like they thought that they had defeated him, but Yoon rose up, and then Yoon stabs Rangi, and yeah, he stabs her. And Kyoshi is kind of like she could just easily go into the Avatar state and finishes this, but the way the passage reads is that Kyoshi shut her eyes. She knew if she opened them, light would shine forth. The elements would flow through her, and her being would rage unstoppably until she was left victorious, last person standing. A thousand voices told her so. It had been decided long before she was born that that power was adequate compensation for losing what she held most dear. But what was the point anymore? What did the generations have to offer her but sorrow and pain? All she knew as she rocked back and forth, cradling the girl she loved, in a lullaby of grief, was that if Rangi was taken from her, she would no longer be Kyoshi. She would no longer be human. She would forever be on the other side of the rift, among the swirling colors of the void she glimpsed in the spirit world, watching humans from afar, a terrible and alien presence. And then it's just Kyoshi. Rangi's voice was the only sound that could make her see right now. Her firebender reached for her face. Stay here with me. Um, and then it kind of talks about um, how she now sees Yoon and how he would rather like those two are parallel to each other. Yoon gets terrible treatment from the world, and he would rather see the world break than his own self regard. Kyoshi could do it easily. She could break the world, but she doesn't. So then she kind of apologizes to Yoon. Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, good start." She's like, "I'm sorry for saying you had to live with your pain because you won't." And then she like puts her hand close to him because she's holding Rangi in one hand, she's dying, and Yoon comes in closer, so she freezes. She does what Atuat told her, but she overpowered it and pretty much freezes his inside and kills him.
Which at that point, all I was thinking about is I'm super glad that Atuat like just made that little note about won't let the men learn from me. I was like, that line sounds way more kick ass now.
Yeah.
It sounded kick ass
There's
then. It sounds even better
there's a
now.
there's a good line that says Kyoshi took the hand with which she killed one of the two people she loved most and placed it against the wound of the other. Um, in the water, and then she uses the Avatar state a little bit to just find water to heal Rangi. Yeah, no, she did use Avatar state. It says the broken ground in front of her rumbled and cracked. A tiny trickle of water leaked out from the well that supplied the mansion. It was the same water she hauled up by the bucket during her servant days. She nearly laughed at perhaps the most underwhelming use of the Avatar state in history.
I was actually sort of hoping, like, in hindsight, I don't know if I was thinking at the time, but would have been cool if she kind of invented bloodbending. Like, that'd be baller, and just stole water out of out of Yoon. Like
Well, I was
he's a
thinking
70% water sack. Use some of his.
I was thinking that she would just use the power that it wasn't getting the water that would be using the Avatar state, is that she would get the water from any source close by, whatever. But like a normal healer wouldn't be able to heal that person. But because she would like go into the Avatar state, access even more great power, and then heal her with the Avatar state.
Yeah, like something like
Yeah.
we're missing, but this at least made for a funny joke ish, some irony using the Avatar state for a little water.
Oh, the next paragraph says she had to reduce her power as much as she could in order not to damage Rangi further. But there was no more fear in Kyoshi's heart. She would be her own miracle this time. So, you know what? Scratch what I just said. That writing there makes it a little bit.
It helps, yeah, it helps.
Yeah. Um, so she ends up saving. Some time goes by. She ends up saving Rangi, and pretty much I just like, oh, so it's over now, and it just ends with them two. Uh, they cried for their friend because Kyoshi had to kill him. All right, and then pretty much that's the end of the conflict. But there's a little bit of a two epilogues really. So in this chapter is the meeting, and in this one, Kyoshi goes like, I don't know, this spiritual place, whatever. Um, oh, I don't want to skip over this because this is where they leave off Rangi and Kyoshi's relationship. Um, she's talking about like, will the world think of her? And then Rangi says like, I don't know what they'll think of her. Like Rangi says, I don't know. I can't tell you anything certain about the future. Only that I'll be there with you. So she leaned over. I can't read right now. She leaned over, supporting herself on the crutch she'd taken from me and kissed Kyoshi on the top of her hair. Kyoshi waited and waited until she finally thought of the right rebel to give. Oh, they're at his graveyard. Okay. Or, yeah, that's right. Kyoshi dug him a grave. Anyway, this Fox comes by and, uh, and, this Fox
Essentially,
comes by and leads, yeah, this Fox comes by and leads Kyoshi somewhere. And Kyoshi's like, sure, I'll follow this Fox, whatever.
it looked like it
Um,
wanted to be followed.
yeah. Um, and then she knows like, all right, it's Avatar time. Like, let me go talk to Kirk. Like he's cool now. Anyway, um, and so she says, anyway, she smiled when she felt a presence across from her, and she says, "I don't want to relive memories of you swimming in this pool, because oh, yeah, they're next up swimming pool. Because beforehand, Kirk was just pretty much giving her memories. Wasn't really talking the same way that they talk often. And then uh, a woman's voice replied, "Sure." Kyoshi opens her eyes. It wasn't Kirk sitting in front of her. Kyoshi goes, "No, no, no." And like Kyoshi thinks she's seeing, says Kyoshi, um, she wasn't ready to see her mother's ghost. What kind of cruel trick of death was being played on her? How had Jessa of the Eastern Air Temple come back to hunt her? And like Kyoshi was like running away. Um, and then she says like, I don't know. Oh wait. Oh, she says, "You're not here. You're supposed to be dead." And then the person says, "I know." Question mark. Kyoshi, who do you think I am? And then Kyoshi caught her breath, and she says, "Yang Chen, it's you." Um, it says the air avatar gave her a mildly embarrassed smile. You look just like her, Kyoshi sobbed. You look just like my mother. Yang Chen was surprised, but being the woman of legendary compassion, she knew exactly what to do. She opened her arms, and Kyoshi fell into her embrace. The feeling of aerial mat robes against her face reminded Kyoshi of Kelsang, and her bawling reached a higher pitch. "Oh, my child," Yang Chen murmured, despite what they just established to the contrary. She hugged Kyoshi to her chest and stroked her hair. I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you before, but I'm here now. Everything's going to be all right. Like that, I know, I know we may knock Yang Chen down a peg or two from learning more things from her, but this
Deservedly
moment
so.
also
Deservedly
deserves,
so.
but also this moment humanizes her more, and it makes her a better character
Hmm?
to me. Like I just love how she embraces Kyoshi like that.
Got my eyes all welling up over here.
Yeah. I feel like this is pretty much Kyoshi just pouring herself into Yang Chen. Um,
I mean, in her mind, like there's a small way that's like meeting God. It's a literal come to
yeah.
Jesus moment
Oh,
for her, sort of. It's wild.
yeah. Like, yeah, especially like, she says to my child, like, to me, the only
That's
people who ever
straight
say
up
stuff like my
biblical
child
stuff.
to
Yeah.
people who aren't their child, yeah. Like if Jesus, like Jesus, yeah, I read something about like my child, like we are children of, you know,
Yeah.
of God. Um, yeah, very similar to that. Anyway, yeah, she's pretty much like, I'm so happy to talk to you. Like you're the first person I can talk to, and she's pretty much like, Kirk didn't help you. It's just still funny to me. I just love how different all the avatars are. Uh, um, and it, was Kirk not able to guide you? Kirk spent his days battling dark spirits, not. And then Kyoshi was going to finish. Um, and she says, like, but that was doing the water avatar. Okay. Yang Chen read her thoughts, feet made easier by the fact they were the same person. And so, pretty much, at one point, Kyoshi's kind of saying, like, Kirk just spent his time, like killing dark spirits. He wasn't that spiritual of a person. And then Yang Chen can feel her misjudgment of Kirk. And she says, like, let me ask you a question, Kyoshi. Have you ever wondered why there were so many angry spirits during Kirk's time?
She's like, yeah, what do you do to
Kyoshi's,
piss them all off?
yeah. And then she's like, no, Kyoshi, I was the problem. So essentially, Yang Chen, she was amazing at dealing with the human world when it came to spirits and the human um, connection, being that bridge. She wasn't the greatest bridge because the bridge kind of went one way. she she made promises on behalf of humans to the spirits. They would uphold certain things or lands and take care of them, and then the humans would not follow those same promises. But Yang would mostly always side on the side of humans, which turned spirits into dark spirits. A couple notable things Yang says, Kyoshi, every avatar makes mistakes, and I was fairly consistent in mine. When humans violated the promise I made on their behalf, too many times spirits turned dark and wrathful. Those were the ones. Those were the ones Kuri was forced to hunt down. I gave each nation everything it wanted, but only realized my error too late. People shouldn't have everything they want. No one is entitled to their very desire. To live in balance, we must willingly decide not to take all that we can from the world and from others. And then she goes on to say, my choices ultimately led to Kurik's suffering. The poor boy thought it was his duty to maintain my legacy and reputation, so he did it alone without sharing his burden. I might have done things differently had I known how much pain I'd be causing my successor. Um, and then Yang Chen, sensing Kyoshi, like, I can see that you're a little disappointed. It's really funny because reading, um, I'm rereading or listening to Rise of Kyoshi now, and like Rangi, like air nomads are like most high esteemed people in the world, right? They're up on another level, especially with spirituality, with how good of people they are. Like Rangi learning that Kyoshi's mother was a Dalfei and a criminal, it it made her like the way they say it is pretty much she lost faith in Santa Claus. It was like finding out that your parents had to look for the kid, that your parents are the ones putting the presents there.
Because even when your parents aren't, air nomads or like from some esteemed group, like we all still get that, our parents are superhero vibes for a little part of our life, right? And she didn't have her
Yeah,
parents around, so that realization that they're human didn't come till later.
yeah. Um, and then that was something Rangi had to deal with. And so I feel like here Kyoshi is dealing with that with Yang Chen. Like Yang Chen put Yang Chen on a pedestal, And then Yang says, "I can sense you're a little disappointed." um, and eventually, Yang says, "There are thousands of generations of past lives in the Avatar cycle. You could spend 1,000 years talking to us, and you still wouldn't know how to best guide the world. This is what you must forego, Kyoshi. The easy answers. You must give up your desire for someone to tell you your choices were correct in the end." Um, and I find that really interesting. Like every avatar has to make their own their own path, no matter if they have a bunch of past lives guiding them on what to do.
Yeah, and literally, there's never. It's like going to be impossible for anyone to validate those decisions as the way that maybe regular humans would like. Well, I
Yeah,
suppose avatars would like to, but
yeah. And then Ancient just ends it with like, "Hey, you destroyed this turtle thing. This one of the ancient avatar relics. You need to replace it because we only have one more lifetime until we're gonna need that to find the next avatar." Um, but I feel like that's maybe just a continuity fix. Because I'm sure people are like, "Well, hey, that's one of the ones that Aang found." And like, "Oh, well, Kyoshi replaced it. Probably just by like, I imagine Kyoshi finding one just like it and then being like, I have to carry this thing around. That way my spirit will like
sort of
know this whether
imbibe into it, kind of. Yeah,
yeah. I just imagine Kyoshi just being like at a dinner party, just walking with the toy. "Hey Kyoshi, what you doing?" "This Avatar stuff. Don't worry
just
about it."
she's like saying a little nightly prayer to it, like, "Please go into it. Please go into it."
That's how that
Osmosis.
conversation ends. The next chapter, epilogue. I'll do one last Morgan Freeman impression
Start the
here.
night, in the night how we started.
Yeah. Da-da-da.
Northeast Ohio is bigger than basketball to me. Definitely watching that as soon as we're done.
After a long day in the tower study, surrounded by relics of his ancestors and the journals of Taos the Strong, Fire Lord Zoryu dismissed Chancellor Khalil, late Chancellor Darwin's former student and successor. Gosh, I wish I ended on a better one. That's not as good.
It's not the most, but it is an epilogue in its defense, you know.
Yeah. Uh, I'm kind of curious what the. Yeah. All right. Oh, well. You know what? Like, what's the last sentence?
Yeah, read the dead end. Maybe that'll be okay.
All right. So, pretty much this epilogue is, or this prologue, epilogue is Lauga coming back. He's working for Kyoshi.
He
He pretty
didn't
much
show up
sneaks
earlier, and
up.
nobody really knew where he was. That's important, I
Yeah.
think.
He shows up to Fire Lord Zoryu's place. It's like, "Listen, Kyoshi sent me here to tell you," because Zoryu was like, "Oh, he's contemplating just killing all of the Salmon to solve his problem completely. That way they don't like rise up or something like that." And he's pretty much like, "Hey, I respect you. You know, I would do the same thing. But Kyoshi sent me here to threaten your life, and I would do it. I would kill you in a second."
She's the
I'm a
Avatar, and I quite plain don't like you, so
yeah.
no big deal.
Um, yeah. Okay, so I'll just read the last of this part in more different voice. The man looked over his shoulder for a parting word. "Some people in my country like to believe Avatar Yang Chen watches over them. But you, Fire Lord, I can assure you that the Avatar Kyoshi watches over you." Zoryu balled his fist. Oh, sorry. That's pretty much it.
You you know now that if they ever make a movie out of this, that Morgan Freeman has to play Lauga, and
But
that's
yeah. What's interesting? He said he balled his fist, feeling the powerlessness infuriating him, made him slip into childish retorts because he is a child.
he
He
is.
says, "She can't watch me forever," he yelled. And I wonder if that's also like Yoshi's like, I
Yeah,
gotta keep living.
I gotta outlive this guy by like 100 years just to make sure his ancestors don't do anything too stupid.
But the funny thing is, though, is like, I mean, Yoshi would have lived to see, uh, would have lived to see the Fire Lord before Sozin.
Yeah, exist as Fire
Yeah.
Lord. Yeah, Which at
Yeah,
that time that could have been like mid industrial like revolution version of or early industrial revolution of Fire Nation times, right?
yeah.
Because they're not there yet. We don't get much sense of that like
I don't think it
mechanized
really. I
tech
don't
or
think it really
anything.
gets there until Azulon. I believe Azulon was known for push. Well, no, I mean Ozai was mostly known for pushing, but I think Azulon kind of started it because I
Seems
think,
fair.
yeah.
Real quick question before we get into recap: do we ever figure out? And I feel stupid for having to ask this, but I just didn't read it, or I read right over it, or whatever. Did Yoon put the message in the side of the hill, or like who put the message in the
He
cross?
did.
He did, but he's just like stirring the pot. He wasn't.
Yeah, he.
He wasn't
Yeah, exactly.
allied.
No. Yeah, he had because it was kind of similar to how he used to like earthbend messages in the earth with like little rocks, like yards away, hundreds of yards away.
That was like his trait, his thing that he's sort of known for. Even was doing
Yeah.
fine messages.
Yep.
So, but his motive was just to stir the pot, just to I don't know, maybe keep his targets where he could see him
Yeah.
not
Pretty much.
not affiliated with the Cellon.
Yeah. Pretty much just keep Kyoshi on the ropes.
Yeah.
All right. Couple things. Would you change anything, or how did this book meet your expectations?
No, it didn't probably quite meet my expectations, but that sounds like a knock, and it was really, really close. Is the best.
Yeah.
I don't want that to sound like too harsh of a criticism. But my expectations were through the roof. The previous one is like my favorite
Yes. We.
book I've ever read.
Well, I think we were talking with Jamie like, oh man, what if there's conflict and stuff, and what if eventually, Ranya has to become Fire Lord. To me, it was
Oh,
kind of
that would
leaning
have
that
been
way
so
too,
cool.
because I initially thought they were going to kill Fire Lord Zoryu, and Chajin would take over. He would kind of be working with Yoon, and then eventually Kyoshi would defeat him, and Rangi would have to take on herself to kill the Fire Lord, right? Going kind of against her
Like
her whole
having to
thing
choose
about
between duty and justice, kind of.
exactly, yeah. And then she would have become Fire Lord, and then her and Kyoshi would have to be. They would leave on good terms, but they wouldn't be able to be together because one is a Fire Lord and one is the Avatar. So
Yeah,
we'll
she's
leave
not
on
some
the bitter.
accountant. She's a real avatar.
It,
No,
it,
we
would-
had
it
we
would just,
had huge like sort of world shaping plans for this, and while there was some world shaping things, it wasn't really physical realm shaping, just sort of
yeah.
lore reshaping. So yeah, not quite. How about you?
Um, I love the book. I'd say that, but I think I loved it more so as an Avatar fan. But I feel like the first book, I was like, this is just an amazing book. Like it's my favorite book I ever read.
Yeah,
But I feel
just a
like this
great work
book
of fiction.
I love mostly because I love Avatar. It has still a good story in there. I feel like Kyoshi grew a good amount. I love her character development. Just the I love how weak she can be sometimes, even though she's the strongest person in the world.
You know what?
Which
We talked
reminds
a
me a
little
lot
bit.
of.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Actually, it reminds me a lot of Korra sometimes.
We hey, there's a fun coincidence of how those two might be connected. Tune in next week, or maybe the week after. Actually, maybe the week after that. You know what? We've got a re-ranking video coming up. Tune in whenever it happens. Um, but we talked about like different genres all coming, like superhero having multiple genres, and kind of joked about it. But in a sense, this is more like this is more of a romance novel than anything. Probably like the biggest part of the novel, at least the biggest crux of the novel, is the relationship between friends, Kyoshi and Yoon, Kyoshi and Rangi. So, whereas the first one was like action, adventure, high fantasy fiction. So, yeah, it's sort of a genre shift.
Yeah. So what were your favorite moments or favorite characters or revelations, whatever?
I will say that I'm going to separate most memorable moment is the one where I got super pissed at Kyoshi for not following orders. Like That could have so easily gone the other way. Like Heiron could have died, and she could have let Yoon go. And like what? How would that have flipped the whole world on its head? All because she was stupid, and it really made me mad. But in a good way, like in an engaged with the book way, not a bad writing way. So that was my most memorable. I would say my favorite moment was the one shortly following, where she got the adorable family speech, from Heiron, and that kind of forgiveness moment, that quick turnaround. So, um, very intense couple of chapters there emotionally.
Okay. I'll go ahead and say my favorite moment to keep in line. I definitely agree. My favorite moment is the Heiron consoling Kyoshi
It was
breakup thing.
amazing.
It is amazing. I could reread that all the
Just
time because
scribbling
it's
on the chalkboard and everything.
yeah. And my thing is like Heiron is almost frustrated at Kyoshi, just like Kyoshi, calm down. Like it's it's fine. And
This
then of
former
course,
like this former like symbol of power and proper is now this cripple lady in a bed scribbling on a chalkboard to a bawling
yeah.
moron. Like it was so. It's just a really beautiful picture.
Oh man. And I love the part of the fight where they put on their face makeup with their blood. That's
Baller.
just kind of cool. And then um, oh, everything with Avatar Korok with probably the second set of flashbacks that goes on. I think all the flashbacks with Avatar Korok, because like to me they all work really well in tandem together and really tells his story. I just have a newfound appreciation for Avatar Korok after this book.
It was a slow build, but if I had to pick on those, I would absolutely pick the last one. Like just finding out that Yang Chen was still part human, and that the Avatar is still fallible. So I would pick the last one from those.
Which is interesting. I think the difference between the two books. Like there was so many great um, action moments in the previous book, but also some great character moments. I feel like there's mostly just great character moments in this book rather than
Yeah.
the action.
Even I kind of complained early on about the action, and then we mentioned that at a certain point where it's very pivotal, it's kind of hard to follow. So yeah, just not constructed as well or in the same way.
Yeah.
But different
I bet
style.
like visual wise, it would come out really great.
Yeah, I can see that. I still want to see
Um,
like Kyoshi like specific bending those guys up into the ceiling early on and all that stuff. But I said
yeah.
I keep defending it about a different style of book, different motive for the book. I get it.
Yeah. So that's
Give me
our
your
current
final thoughts.
thoughts.
Like give me your sort of your elevator speech recommendation or lack thereof.
I mean, I highly recommend this book, especially if you read The Rise of Kyoshi. To me, it's a good. It's not as good as that one. Also, it's a little bit shorter. It feels more like a amendment on onto the Rise of Kyoshi, but still great. Avatar Quirk was redeemed so much in this book. I just love the lore of the Avatar, and being back in this Avatar universe is always good. Being back and getting the headspace of Kyoshi, like going back and rereading this and going back through it, like Kyoshi might end up being my favorite Avatar. I'm talking about best, just my favorite. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, it's Korra, Kyoshi. After Rise of Kyoshi, she was second, and then Aang, and then probably Yang Chen, and then Wan. Which I love Yang Chen even more now, even though she's has more faults. That's
Like I
fine because
respect
I
her
like
less,
character.
but love her more a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, especially her giving that hug to like her embracing Kyoshi. Like, and it's read like if this was any other avatar like Zeto or some other person, they probably wouldn't do the same thing that Yang Chen did.
Uh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting your elevator speech.
Oh, I forgot. Anyway, if you love the world of Avatar, if you love both shows, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice and not reading these books. Like you are missing out.
Yeah, I'd say it's worth even. So the relationships are the part that appealed to me the most because there's just a lot of really good, deep, layered ones in here. But even if that doesn't appeal to you, I think you said it best earlier when, like, just for learning about Avatar Seto Kaiba, Avatar Jafar, Rozukin, just for learning about him and reshaping how we think about Yangchen and Kuruk, there's tons and tons of lore provided in this book. So if that part of Avatar interests you, you should read it. You should absolutely read it one way or the other, even if no, it doesn't quite stack up to the first. And then my last final thing that I will pitch in it is there's like two spots in here where I was thinking that would be great. If enough people watch this video to demonstrate to us that enough people read the book or are interested in the book, I would say the what if, what if, I can't think of his name, Zoryu had been sort of plotting this from the beginning to overturn his soft guy image. It'd be a great what if. And then even like a what if Heiran had died, because that was another part where I was like, she's gonna die, and then Kyoshi is gonna lose
Yeah.
like her girlfriend and her bait, and then how
Oh,
the
and that
the
is. I'm sorry.
no, that's I think those would both make great what if videos if the audience would be interested in that.
I'll say that's another big difference between these two books. Is I feel like there's more emotional weight in this because there's way more deaths that affected Kyoshi and the Rise of Kyoshi.
Everybody
Jianzhu
dies in that
killing
book. That book is Game of Thronesy in that sense. This book is more Game of Thronesy in other senses.
Jianzhu killing Kelsang um, was so freaking heartbreaking. And then you feel like Kyoshi's on top of the world. She just beat Zhu. Her and Rangi and Lek are just chilling, and out of nowhere, Lek is like poisoned. He has an allergic reaction. He dies. Kyoshi has to watch him dying in front of her. So these are like, and also that relationship was built over the course of the book, and it finally got to a really good place because they hated each other to begin with. So there was way more vital deaths in that book.
Way heavier hitting in that sense. And again, I'm just gonna chalk that up to like an action, like a heavy action element. This one didn't quite hit in the same way, but if you want great fiction, read the first one. If you want great Avatar lore and info, read this one. And in the end, I think our recommendation is probably just read them both if you haven't.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Couple things. So our reoccurring guest, Jamie read the book. She didn't like it as much as the previous book. She had a couple issues with it. If I can remember what the issues were, she didn't like it nearly as much as we liked it.
Yeah, and there was
I
specific
think
points where she thought certain things could have been done more valuably or more meaningfully.
yeah, I think she was saying that the antagonist could have been a little bit better, maybe a little bit more Game of Thrones than Fire Nation. They kind of dropped that aspect of it. Um, she had talked about how Yoon could have the story of trying to become having better motivation about him still wanting to keep that avatar hood and him um, fusing with his own spirit, making him kind of in a way an avatar, but him wanting to replace Kyoshi
That was a
would
little
have
too
been
like Dragon Ball Z, like like the Mega One Up, always the next big stick. Like that was almost too big for me. I was totally fine with Yoon's motives as they were. I think it's still damaged. So I disagreed with her slightly on that, but it's still an interesting topic of we mentioned we you've talked about potential dual avatardom in one of your other videos before. I want to say, is it the one where you're talking about Korra
uh,
separating from past lives or something?
yes.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
about Rava being split and fusing with like Janora.
so it would be interesting if that had been touched upon discreetly like multiple times through Avatar lore. That would be cool, but I do disagree with her slightly on that one at least.
But I agree with some of her points.
Yeah.
I don't have all of them here, but
Well, and she's probably more literarily inclined than we are into like
that's
certain
true.
certain details and stylings. But
Okay, so I also asked out to some viewers out there. Got at least one reply that I can read. Time Lord Iro hashtag Black Lives Matter BLM. So that's
Time
shout
Lord
out to that person.
would read absolutely.
He says, or she, I'm sorry. They say, I love seeing the Fire Nation politics. All around great book that helps up to the quality. Sorry, let me reread. I love seeing the Avatar nation politics all around. Great book. It helps up to the quality of the first. I also love that I have a reason for Korik's early death and why he didn't seem to do much. Yeah, I completely agree with that. That was my biggest takeaway. It was just Korik.
Still mad we didn't even get to his actual wife that he met on the first day. Like, we just end knowing that, hey, he kind of loved Heiran.
Yeah. Um, why do I care about that? I'm getting all these notifications because I don't use my tablet all that
Eh,
much on
I got a
Facebook.
bunch of NBA notifications on my phone and kept checking. Rockets won, if you're interested.
Yeah. I'm just checking the Facebook page to see if anybody commented there because it looks like no, that's okay. But all that's I believe that's all. My favorite character was Kyoshi,
Yeah,
and I like the
absolutely.
introduction of Jinpa.
Hmm. He was nice, not comic relief, but relief from a lot of the intense nature of the other
Yeah.
characters. So, uh, yeah, in that case, final thoughts wrap up. Like I said, read them both probably, or more importantly, after if you've read it and you watch this as well, we would love to hear your overarching thoughts. Let us know your thoughts and feelings. Um, Again, I'd be interested to know if anyone would like to see those what if videos, either or both. It's always nice to have a few of those in our back pockets for weeks when we can't record. And thanks for hanging with us through this gonna be like almost 3 hours. So we'll see what happens after we edit it. We had a little break in
No.
between. I don't, Chris. I gotta be honest. I don't know if my video editor is gonna love the 3 hours. That might take all day. We'll see how that goes. This might be a Sunday. Might be our first ever Sunday release. A big deal. So hey, that's all I got. Thanks for joining us. It was a lot of fun. Read the books. Let us know what you think. Anything else?
Nope.
Hmm? All
Goodbye.
right. See you later.